Hello everyone and welcome back to GPVWC Super League. This is the second round of the championship in 2025 and of course the Turkish Grand Prix from Istanbul Park. This is the first race of the season where we're deviating from the Formula 1 calendar, bringing back a beloved remnant of Grand Prix racing's past. Istanbul Park of course has held many Grand Prix over the year but not since 2021. So Super League has decided to go back here. And I am very glad to see that actually, because this is a fantastic place for a Grand Prix. It's strategic, there are places for overtaking, it's a great quali circuit as well with some fast corners, some medium speed corners, awesome stuff. My name of course is Caitlin Penny and I'm going to be talking you through it alongside Edward Hunter. Ed, hello, how are you?
Yeah, I like the deviation from the calendar. Sounds like the rules of that radio program, Just a Minute, where you have to speak for a minute without repetition, deviation, or hesitation. But speaking of hesitation, let's get into Istanbul Park, because as you say, it's one of those sort of forgotten classics. It's interesting because I was watching some of the drivers practice in the week, and Jan Grankvist, who of course won so brilliantly, a reigning champion, winning first in the first race of the season last time at Albert Park in Melbourne. I saw he was playing a F1 Championship Edition from 2007 and playing on which again, one of the very few F1 officially licensed F1 games that has Istanbul Park on it, of course, because it was really only on the calendar sort of the mid-2000s, 2005 through to about 2011, I think. And during that time, there was a massive hiatus in F1 games, I think, in the middle of that. So they've only really got about 5 either side of that have Istanbul Park in it. But of course, R Factor 2 has a very, very refined version of the track, as Grankvist, appropriately enough, is one of the first out the pits, although of course it's a private session, so they're probably all circulating at almost exactly the same time right now for their first flying laps, or the out laps, I should say.
Yes, so reigning champion who won the very first race, as you will shortly see in the highlights that we will run during the warm-up, is Jan Grankvist. And let's talk you through some of the runners and riders, because it's mostly the same as in the last Grand Prix, but with a few minor changes. Fraser Tartan has a change to their lineup. Unfortunately, Sven Schubert cannot be here for today for whatever reason. So Mike Quint will be taking his seat. Mike Quint, who has run Super League races in the past with varying success. We've also gained Loic Mounier, who was intending to be in the last race for Spark Racing, but unfortunately, due to technical issues or something along those lines, he was not able to make it. But Loic Mounier is here today and has been running extremely well in practice. I was talking to Carlos Martin earlier today, actually, talking about the race, and one thing that he said to me was look out for Loic Mounier. So definitely keep your eye on that Spark car, one of the 2 Spark cars out there, along with, of course, Vincent Gutt. There's also been a change at Green Stripes. Unfortunately, Stein Handgraf is not here today, so they've brought in their emergency driver, Pavel Andrzejewski, for his 3rd Super League appearance. He has not finished a Super League race just yet, so he will be hoping to correct that record today. So those are the changes that I can see. Unfortunately, we only have 28 of the 30 cars in the server now. Hopefully, we get 2 more in as the session continues. Oh, and just a quick correction as well. Valet Esports, of course, we did have Ruben Machete standing in for Sergio Fletcher in the last race. Sergio Fletcher is here today, so that's another little change that we have, although Fletcher was always supposed to be the primary driver for that car, so that is not too surprising. Anyway, we're now a couple of minutes into the qualifying session. We're watching the championship leader and world champion, of course, Jan Grankvist, lapping the course, coming to the end of his first flying lap.
Whoa!
And we're sure. Whoa! I was about to say we're about to see the lap, the benchmark lap that everyone has to beat, but unfortunately Grankvist has gone into the wall. Now the important thing here, Ed, is that he's still got his engine and all 4 of his wheels, because if he makes it back to the pits, he will be able to go out and set another lap.
Yeah, there's a very, very nasty bump there at turn 10, and I think that's what Jan just fell foul of there. But unsurprisingly, the man who did set provisional pole at Albert Park before having to suffer a penalty carried over from the previous season, Alessandro Maggio, he is lighting up that middle sector then as he comes towards the line. 121.6 the time from Jarl Tyne to beat. He falls just 59 thousandths of a second shy of actually Thomas Vack in the second of the Rotor Formulas. And here's Loic Mounier you just mentioned earlier, Caitlin. So disappointed to be ruled out of the season opener. He goes fastest of anybody, and by some margin as well. 3.5 tenths clear of Thomas Vack there. Now Simon Frelick slots in between, just 2 tenths shy of Loic Moynier, but 121.285. That was a superb effort from Loic there, and he is back in business.
Indeed, I'm just checking the penalties that were dished out from the last race. We've got a couple of time penalties, but luckily no grid penalties. So the order you see at the end of the session should be the order in which they start. There was a time penalty awarded to Tom Stevens, who finished second in the race, for contact, although that doesn't appear to have affected his finishing position. So he stays second in both the race and the championship. We've now regained Matt Richards, who left the server temporarily. So we now have 29 of our cars on the server. I will try to work out as we're going along who is missing, and hopefully we'll end up with a full house, which we didn't have at the first round due to Loic Mounier's disconnection. But as you say, Loic Mounier is currently top of the times as it stands, followed by Szymon Frelick and Tomasz Wok. An impressive performance from the Polish driver so far. But I'm sure with plenty of time left in the session, we still have times to be set, and those times will tumble, Ed.
Yep, that's almost guaranteed unless the track conditions change suddenly and it starts raining. But 42-degree track temperature at the moment, bright and sunny conditions, or at least not that overcast. At the very least, this sort of grey sunshine through the clouds in the background there. But yeah, now Grankvist, having had his crash on his first flying lap, the pressure is just starting to creep up here, isn't it? You can tell Jan not looking quite as assured as he did earlier, but I'm sure he will pick his confidence back up because he's been in this situation many, many times throughout his career where the first flying lap in qualifying hasn't gone to plan and then he's aced it and somehow got it onto the front row. So yeah, he surprised us before and it certainly won't be the last time. But yeah, Loic Moynier is really putting Spark into the forefront in this one so far. And it'll be interesting to see if the likes of the THRs of Tyan and Stevens can get close to the front row. Maggio can put in another magic lap here, but Simon Frelick has really been the only one that's gotten anywhere near Loic so far in the session. Although saying that, Grankvist is only about 75 thousandths behind then as we go into the final sector, Caitlin. So this could be a lap that gets him ahead of some of his championship rivals.
Yeah, we're watching this lap from Grankvist. He's not set a lap in this session yet. We saw his shunt earlier on, and he comes up to the line now, and he won't be fastest, but he's third fastest. That's not too bad whatsoever. He's within 0.2 of a second of the pole time, and with more opportunities, I'm sure that Grankvist can improve and potentially challenge the front row of the grid, maybe even pole position. He looks like he's still on a lap, but of course he may just be doing a fast in lap. Usually you don't go for 2 flying laps in a row in these cars because of course you take a lot out of the tires on a flying lap and you use up a lot of energy as well. So he'll probably just be pushing his way back to the pits to set up for another flying lap. And of course, you have to get all the way back. You can't teleport back to the pits like you can in other sim racing championships. That would be an unfair advantage. So you have to get back to the pits in order to escape out again and continue with your session. Here's Tom Stevens, runner-up in both the current championship standings and last year's championship standings. And he bails into the pits now. And it's that time of the session, Ed, where you see drivers doing that. There's not really much point setting quick laps now because, of course, pretty much everyone has put down a banker lap, and it's really at the end of the session, the last 2-3 minutes, where drivers start to really push and get those fast times in. So a lot of these laps that we're seeing will just be drivers heading back into the pit lane. Alex Lahoe stays out and continues on his way. If he can get up into the top 15, he'll be in points-paying position for the race. And wow, that's a big lap, actually, from Alex Lahoe to go 4th position in this race. And I tell you what, he was just saying in the YouTube chat a couple of minutes ago that he is not expecting to do particularly well today. He says, I'm going to stink today. I hate Turkey. So clearly, P5, maybe a bit of a red herring, Ed.
Yeah, and it was P4 temporarily, but Thomas Vack, his teammate, has gotten in front by 1,000th of a second. There you can just see on the timing screen there. So excellent lap there. But Moynier, top of the timing sheets, that very, very light purple, or dare I say pink Spark Racing car is going even faster then. And Moynier, he has a big history of hustling purple and pink cars around the racetrack to spectacular results, and it is even faster. There we go, a 10th quicker than Simon Frelick there. You saw Frelick actually was purple in the first sector, messed up his most recent flying lap there. So everyone else is faltering, and Moynier is doing absolutely everything right now.
Crazy thing is, I think he barely improved his lap, but it was a narrow improvement, but an improvement nonetheless. I'm just going to have a look back and see. He improved it by 1,000th of a second. Okay, well, I guess every little helps in this, but there you go.
But that's demoralizing for the opposition, though, because that's 2 laps he's done that are good enough for pole.
Yeah, oh, that's absolutely true. And of course, it shows that however fast he was before, he's still got a little more left in the tank. Loic Meunier is clearly a contender here today. And it makes you wonder what he could have done if he'd made the last race at Australia as well. I think we missed out by not having him on the grid on that occasion. Or maybe he was just giving everyone else a chance. We'll end up seeing what the real nature of that is. Jukka-Pekka Lally now through this famous to quadruple apex turn 8, one of the real standout features of this Istanbul circuit, one of the longest corners in Grand Prix racing history. And then you go through this fast chicane, deceptively difficult fast chicane, because you want to carry the speed through there, and so it really entices you to make a mistake, and we've seen plenty of errors through there over the years. Then we go over a crest in a hill, and then this triple pronged final section where you go left, right, and then left again. You can carry quite a lot of speed through this final corner because it opens out and there's a nice big curb to catch you on the outside, and he improves up into 12th position now, so 9 places behind his teammate, but still an improvement as Matthew Williams shows us the Adonis engineering car in 10th position.
Yep, so Matthew Williams, who had a pretty strong qualifying, didn't he, in Albert Park, finished 6th in the race in the end, goes up to 4th. There we go, jumps ahead of the 2 rotor formulas of Vac and Lehoux. So Matthew Williams getting the Adonis into play right behind Jan Grankvist, as Frelick and Grankvist still just about 300ths apart from one another, but it feels like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic a little bit, because Moynier at the moment is the only one clear of the iceberg on that pole position. This is a very tortured Titanic metaphor, so I'm going to stop doing it. But but anyway, 4 minutes left to go. We've got maybe 2 or 3 more laps maximum for Grankvist to get himself onto the front row here. This is looking like it's going to be a much tougher challenge. In Albert Park, he had a stern challenge from Stevens. Now it's Moynier and Frelick, and maybe even Williams, that could be the main threats to him today.
Good news, Ed. We now have a full house of cars. The other car we were missing was the second Stax racing car. We were expecting Zolt Schukes to turn up in that vehicle, but Justin van der Smissen has taken that seat. He is the emergency driver for the team, so I expect he was probably doing the R&D test just now, and Zolt Schukes unfortunately has not been able to make it. But that does mean, of course, that we have all 30 cars here today. That's always what we like to see. It's always a little bit frustrating, to be honest, when there's a car missing, because I'm sure there are a lot of young drivers out there who would like to be competing in this, and it's almost selfish really when a team doesn't field 2 cars in the championship. Into the pits now comes Jan Grankvist to set up for his final flying lap, his final run at that pole position. He's 3rd position currently, but does anyone have anything for Loic Meunier is the question. Carlos Martin here, like I said, was the driver who pointed out Loic Meunier to me and said look out for him earlier on today. I have a sneaking suspicion that Carlos will be one to look out for, as this is a track of attrition and strategy. And realistically, if you're looking for a smart driver who will pick up on the ideal strategy options, Carlos Martin is that man, and Jar Tyen has to be one to look out for as well. But Ed, we're now heading into the final 2 minutes of the qualifying session, the final 2 minutes of the timer. Of course, they are allowed to finish the laps they're on if they have started a lap before the timer ticks to 0, and that means, of course, it's crunch time.
Yeah, you saw that, and into the pits now comes Tyen. that Carlos Martin, the rear, just sort of snapped on him through turn 13 there. So I wonder how many of these drivers have gone for straight line speed so they can do overtakes in the race. And they might be not prioritizing qualifying quite as much. They'll be quick sort of down on the run into turn 12, but sort of through the tighter, twistier stuff where they sort of have to just hold on, I think they might not be quite as strong. So it wouldn't surprise me a couple of the drivers that maybe don't feel they have the outright pace are sort of playing a very different game strategically in terms of how they set up their car. Because you see it to a much bigger extent in the junior categories, Academy, FS2 especially, where you'll see certain drivers that are just all in on straight line speed to try and keep track position in the race and don't worry so much about qualifying. You see Hygo Poom, late effort, gets up to 8th position there. Great job by the Estonian in the AKA hero there, because that's put him just ahead of Jarl Tyne, which is not what THR wanted. They've got only one car just about in the top 9, and Stevens in 11th, and Stevens is in the pit lane. So Tom Stevens will start this race from 11th then, which is not what he would have had in mind at all after second place last time out.
Yeah, and that's a best place of 11th. He could still be knocked down a couple of rungs by some of the drivers behind him.
Yep.
Matthew Williams here, not a great opening sector of the lap. He's a couple of tenths down on the ultimate fastest lap. It's not too far back actually, because Mounier's first sector was pretty exceptional. That was where he gained most of the time. The second sector will be a little bit more telling, I think, because a lot of this is straight line speed across the... Yep, he's up. Okay, so Matthew Williams on for a good lap here. He could challenge for the top 3, but it depends what he does for the remainder of this lap. The clock is about to tick to 0, so the checkered flag will await these drivers at the end of the qualifying session. Out of the final corner comes Matthew Williams for Adonis Engineering. Up to the line, Riot Kilk improves to 12th. What does Williams do? He stays 4th, does not improve on his time. He was a couple of tenths down. Shimon Frelich is in the pits. He will not improve. Jan Grankvist is coming around the final few corners of his lap. And out of the final turn he comes. What can Jan Grankvist do? The championship leader stays in 3rd. He is 2 tenths per second down as well. Maggio goes 3rd. The provisional pole sitter from Australia last time out. His 3rd position in this qualifying session. Tomasz Vok is doing a heck of a lot better than he did in qualifying in Australia. He's in the top 6 as it stands. His teammate Lahu is back in the pits. An improvement for Lalu puts him in the top 10. That's his best qualifying position in a little while now. But Tomasz Vok, road to Formula Racing, coming up towards the end of the lap. Just 3 corners to go in his own lap. A right-hander, a left-hander. This is looking good for Vok. This could put him in the top 5. Up to the line he goes, and Tomasz Vok, P3, knocks Maggio off that, and knocks Grankvist down a row as well. So Grankvist will start from 5th position at best, and I think that we're coming to the end. I don't know if anyone else has a lap time in them, not judging by the sector time. So it looks as if Loic Mounier will be on pole position by nearly a quarter of a second over Shimon Frelich and Tomasz Vok. So a quarter of a second separates the top 3. And then it's Alessandro Maggio, as you can see, who does not have a grid penalty this time out. Jan Grankvist, championship leader and champion, is 5th. Matthew Williams is 6th. Then Alex Laho, P7. Jokper Galalu, P8. Carlos Martin, P9. And Maciej Muinek, P10. We haven't really seen the Holland Racing Team car yet, but they have a brand new livery for today. So we'll take a look at them in a little bit. Hygo Poom is P11. Then it's the 2 THRs of Jarl Tyne and Tom Stevens. Not a great qualifying performance from them. They would have been hoping for better. Riot Kilk P14, Jeffrey Fournier P15, then Daniel Brewer, Dylan Fisher, Mark Schluter, Stefan Ruhl and Robin Pansar. Then we get Chris Shepard, Pascal Pollens, Pavel Andrzejewski, Mike Quint, Vincent Gutt, Istvang Singal, Wopke Hoekstra, Matt Richards, Justin van der Smissen, who stepped in quite late, and then Sergio Fletcher, who doesn't appear to have set a representative lap time. So that is your grid. Those are your 30 drivers, how they will line up for this day of racing. It's an intriguing one because Loic Mounier is on pole position, but this is only his 5th Super League race. Does he have the experience to finish it off? We will find out in a couple of moments' time. In the meantime, we would like to present you with the highlights of the last Grand Prix in Australia, just in case you missed it. And this should hopefully give us some pointers to look out for today's Grand Prix, and just refresh our memories a little bit. So you can see the lights, and when they all go out, we will be underway for the 2025 Super League season, which is underway now.
No!
A very slow start for Jarl Tyen. He gets away, but very slowly. Look at Shimon Frelick coming through from third place as well, but it's Jan Grankvist who leads. So Grankvist leads, Frelick second, Lahu is third, and there's Maggio making up the place already. Matthew Williams coming with him, so they're up to 5th and 6th positions. Machin Winnick is in 7th, then it's Machete, Fournier. Where did Tyen drop to? He's 14th. What a terrible start for the second THR car. And I don't see anything strange on the telemetry or whatever. He just bogs down and fails to get going. Maybe you couldn't see the lights from where he was. Maybe there was some kind of other issue that befell him.
Look at Stevens all over the rear of Alex Lahu into the weight chicane. Side by side they go. Stevens has to back out, and he's going to try again into Ascari.
That's so brave, but there's another DRS zone here. They touched and went onto the grass. My goodness. Now look at Tom Stevens. He's got a great run going towards the weight chicane. This time goes to the outside, and this time gets the move. Back to Tom Stevens now. He's right on the tail of Shimon Frelick. Goes to the outside just as he did. What kind of a chance does he have here? A very good one. And he goes right around the outside of Frelick for second place. That was a really good move.
That took a bit of cooperation from Simon, who I think is starting to struggle. Oh, big moment for Maggio, and through goes Matthew Williams.
Okay, well, he's lost a couple of places there, down to P7.
That definitely feels like they're trying to undercut to gain ground, as we see Panzer under attack. No, he's passing Jeffrey Fournier, sorry. For 9th position there, and now Fournier gets his dose of DRS, trying to get back around the outside at Ascari, but the Adonis cuts him off.
Now watch Stevens as he slipstreams Grankvist, goes to the outside. We've seen him do this twice already. Third time's the charm. Tom Stevens takes the lead of the race. Oh my goodness, that's a huge slide from Matthew Williams, just as we saw with Alessandro Maggio. He slams on the brakes to bring the front back around, but he has lost a place. Machin Winnick goes through into 5th position. Lahu is challenging Frelick into turn 3. Lahu was on the outside. He's going to drive right around the outside of the TOP Esports car. A great move from Lahu there. Alessandro Maggio. Oh, yeah, Jarl Tyen now up the inside of Panzer. Gets through into P9.
Leaders in the pits too, Caitlin.
And indeed, Stevens is in, Grankvist is in.
Yeah, those who started, of course, on the hards have really got to extend it to give themselves the best chance. And now Stevens is trying to go up the inside of Lalu. Can Lalu help his teammate out here at all? No, he can't there. Stevens up to second.
And it's Alessandro Maggio. Has something happened to our original pole sitter? He's got Tomasz Vok on his tail. Oh. And he loses it by himself. Oh, and a big crash into the wall. And Alessandro Maggio, who looked as if he had a chance of winning today, is unfortunately out of the race. Oh, here we go. Alex Lahu is caught back up to Fournier. Now, Fournier almost seemed to give him that. He moved wide to the outside line, and through went Lahu on the inside. And through into 3rd place goes Frelick. 4th is Lahu. 5th, Fournier. And 5th is Matthew Williams. He's just passed Fournier on the entrance to turn 1. Maggio retired because, unfortunately, quite a few of them predicted it. Jarl Tyen now to the inside of Jeffrey Fournier and does make the move into the weight chicane. That one relatively straightforward. Now, one thing I'm noticing, Ed, Fournier seems to be leaving the door wide open for people. Look at this, he's just left the inside open for Machete as well, who also comes through. Shimon Frelick has caught back up to Alex Lahu.
Who's got through? Well, we've been not watching.
That's so true, sorry, yes. Jukka-Pekka Lalu, unfortunately, is out of the race. He was side by side. Is that
Brewer?
It's Brewer, yeah. Around the outside. Do they touch? They do indeed. And they both run out towards the wall and wallop. And that is the end of Jukka-Pekka Lalu's race. And here is Jan Grankvist. This is for the lead of the race. And suddenly, Grankvist has pulled the pin. He goes through and leads this race for the first time in a good 20 laps or so.
Using the DRS, and as you say, a bit of push to pass employed here. Gets to the outside. There was a bit of an attempt to defend the inside, but he wasn't going to try and extend the corner there into the chicane. There was no way that Stevens was going to be able to fight.
And Jarl Tyen goes through, so Tyen has jumped Machete that part of the field. And here comes Szymon Frelick round the outside of Yartayan and does go through into third place.
Frelick is going to surely pull away there. Somebody kicks up a lot of dust. It was Szymon Frelick going too wide at turn 6. The time will go back up the inside. Can Lahoo follow him through? They're almost going to go 3 wide here. Oh, that's not Smither. And is Lahoo going to make a double move? Yes, he is. Fantastic racecraft and awareness from Alex Lahoo, and he's back on the podium.
Here's a replay of what just happened. You see Frelick, well, you see the aftermath of Frelick running through the gravel and then rejoining the race. By the way, Tom Stevens sets the fastest lap of the race. He is charging after Jan Granqvist, who himself set the fastest third sector of the race.
Now we see Thomas Vack trying to use DRS to go back around the outside. They both got DRS here. Oh, and just having to back out at the last minute is Robin Pansar there.
He's on the back of Fournier, and this will be the move we've just seen. And once again, Fournier leaves the door wide open. Just let's walk through.
Maximum straight line speed like some nose. Oh, big crash! And that's tying out of the race, surely.
Yeah, I mean, has he kept all the wheels on his car? He's out.
No.
Yartayan is out of the race.
So he goes into the apex normal, then the rear starts to bite over the curb, and he's a passenger at that point. Here comes Ruben Machete round the outside of Matthew Williams. Oh my goodness me, that was full commitment there.
Right, Kilk currently in that last points paying position, but he does not want to settle because he doubles his advantage in the championship if he goes around outside of Schluter here, which he does. Oh, he was and Schluter spins. Schluter drops it. They're side by side. Fischer's on the outside. Kilk in the red car, Fischer in the white and black car, who's on the inside line, and Kilk fends him off. Really good defensive driver from Riot Kilk. Mark Schluter, he will be gutted with this. He's alongside Riot Kilk, and you'll see here, there's no contact on the exit, no contact with Kilk, he just loses it.
Lucky actually kept it out of the wall as well. As now we see Fournier all over the back of Vac here, and the second Road to Formula driver, the pole, has got to defend to help his teammate in that team's championship. Around the outside with the DRS comes Jeffrey Fournier. That was a well-judged move. Knew he had the momentum coming out of the weight chicane there.
So Williams is slipstreaming in up towards the weight chicane. This is his last chance. He knows he won't get another try. Goes around the outside and goes off. There we go. Goes onto the grass, and they did very well not to come together.
Somebody spun in the background as well.
Could it have been Dukes? Was he a lap down at the time? And there he goes, and he spins it around and off the road. Meanwhile, out of the final corner, Jan Granqvist has had the measure of the whole field. It was close with Stevens for a while, but Granqvist has extended his streak, winning the first race of the 2025 championship. And there we go, Jan Granqvist wins the first race of 2025. Tom Stevens is second, so we start the season just as last season finished. Alex Lahoo is third on Road to Formula Racing's debut. Then it's Szymon Frelick in fourth place, Ruben Machete fifth in Valley Esports' debut. Matthew Williams sixth, then Carlos Martin P7, Macho Winnick P8, Jeffrey Fournier P9, Robin Pansar P10. P11 was Tomasz Vok, then Stefan Ruhl, Sven Schubert P13, then Dylan Fischer and Riot Kilk, who claims that final point. All right, welcome back everyone to GPVWC Super League. We just have a few more minutes, 3 minutes to be precise, of the warm-up session, and then we will be underway for, well, first of course we got the formation lap, but then we will be underway for the second race of the 2025 season. I am still Caitlin Penny, I'm still joined by Edward Hunter, and your cameraman and broadcaster today is Remco de Zeeuw, who we have to give a big shout out for doing all of these things, like setting up that highlights package you just saw. Of course, Ed Hunter also edited that, but Remco brings you the stream, the sights and the sounds that you are witnessing in front of your very eyes and ears. Can you tell I'm waffling a bit to bypass the time, Ed? Let's
a little bit.
That's okay. Well, we've got 2 minutes to go. This is quite a track, isn't it? This Istanbul circuit. It's a shame that it's not on the Formula 1 calendar anymore, because to be honest, I always liked this one.
Yeah, sort of. The problem is it never really had the crowds, did it? It was one of this sort of, not early tiltdromes, because sort of early tiltdromes is sort of Sepang. It's a fairly early tiltdrome from Herman Tilke, of course. You think of like Shanghai and Bahrain, those other ones that have stayed for a while. But I think Istanbul was always sort of intended to stay. I think even though it's called Istanbul Park, it's quite a distance from the actual city of Istanbul in Turkey. So I think that's always been a little bit part of the problem. That I think if you look at some of the crowd shots here, there are more people in the stand in this R Factor 2 mod than there were ever in real life. Although, to be fair, that might be coloured a little bit by the last race I remember here being the 2021. The ones in 2020 and 2021, which were basically just to fill in the calendar during COVID-affected gaps, essentially. But yeah, I think it's very fast, very flowing, very exciting. Lots of undulation here. I actually really like this bit that we just see Alex Laho going through right now. The sort of turn 3, 4, and 5 section. I think that's a really, really fun part of the track, where you sometimes see if you Dan Dare dives on the brakes, late dives on the brakes essentially to sort of get up the inside. That sometimes work out, and sometimes I remember in the FS2 race on last Tuesday, not last Tuesday actually, but the one before, of course. As we look at the New Holland Racing Team livery, that I believe it was Omar Gorgi, I think, has put that together not for us,
was indeed
for the team. So, former driver of Holland Racing Team for a couple of races at least, Omar Gorgi, doing a good job to give the Dutch outfit their unique visual identity. They had a bright green on the car before. Now they've actually textured it and shaded it, so it looks much more cohesive and a little bit less garish. So compared to the highlights what we just saw in Australia, where it stood out like a sore thumb, now it feels a bit more naturalistic.
Yeah, I definitely prefer this livery as well. I think Owen's done a good job with it. And we knew as of the last round that this new livery was coming. It wasn't quite ready in time for the last race, at least not in time to be submitted for the last race, although I saw a couple of renders of it. And I remember saying I was looking forward to seeing it in action. As for Spark Racing Team here, they have a wonderful livery. Look at this thing. This would have been designed by Christian Zerner, I believe, also known as Gadona Designs, who has always been one of the best livery designers out there. And I always look forward to seeing what the Spark Racing Team can come up with. Unfortunately, they didn't have a particularly strong result from the first race of the season, because they only had one driver. Vincent Gutt very much had to do the whole thing by himself. Nowadays, of course, they have Loic Mounier in that other seat, and what a driver to have. Loic, of course, in just his 5th Super League start, has bagged a pole position here at the Turkish Grand Prix. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do to bring that team off of the very back, the very bottom of the team's championship standings. It's also worth noting this is the first round where development upgrades will come into effect. Obviously, at the very start of the Super League season, every car is completely identical, and then as the series goes on, the teams decide to develop their cars in different directions, and they start to get a little bit more diverged from each other. It's interesting looking at the R&D tab on the website that Valet appeared to be the most developed car so far, although one of only 3 teams to have invested into rear wing downforce, along with Epic Racing and Red Archer. Red Archer, who happened to be the least well-developed team so far, at least in terms of the number of R&D points affected. Every single team has opted into pit tire change, so speeding up the pit crew, except for Red Archer. They're very much the divergent team of the grid, and most teams have also spec'd into weight, mass, and drag body as well. In terms of engines, Revington has upgraded their fuel consumption, Viper and Quasar have upgraded their power, and Vertex have reduced their engine mass. So we're at that stage of in the season, Ed, where we really start to have to play mechanic as well as bystander, because it starts to get a little bit more complicated as the season goes on.
Yeah, and that's before we factor into like changing engines for particular races or not. So I don't think we know if anybody has changed engines or not from Australia.
Oh yeah.
I guess we'll have to see, but as Moynier is going to lead away the formation lap, and that's a good feeling for him after missing that first race of the season. He's going to have a clean run into turn 1, but of course there's so much to worry about, and the tyre choice for this opening stint could be very, very interesting here in Istanbul because tyre wear always a little bit unpredictable.
Yep, so let's take a look at the grid. Loic Meunier lines up on pole position, his first Super League pole. Then it's Szymon Frelick, Tomasz Wach and Alessandro Maggio, who will start from 4th position this time, despite his penalty in the last race. Jan Grangqvist is 5th, the champion. Then it's Matthew Williams, Alex Laho and Jukka-Pekka Lalu, the champion's teammate. Very good qualifying performance from Lalu, it must be said. Carlos Martins P9, look out for him today. Maciej Młynek is P10, then it's Hygo Poom and Jarl Tyen. THR not having the qualifying they would have liked. Look at Tom Stevens there, 13th position, but we know that he races well. Riot Kilk is P14. We were talking about him in the break and how he tends to fly under the radar, but he's very good indeed. Then, of course, I've just missed the epic racing cars of Fournier and Brewer, but then you get Fischer, Schluter, Ruhl, and Panzer. Ruhl, of course, the 2021 champion for Holland Racing Team. Then it's Chris Shepherd, Pascal Pollens, Pavel Andrzejewski in just his 3rd Super League start. Then Mike Quint, P24, stepping in for Sven Schubert. P25 is Vincent Gutt. Then it's Isfang Singel, Wopke Hoekstra, Matt Richards. And then the last 2 cars on the grid we will see in just a second. And they will be Justin van der Smissen and Sergio Fletcher. In terms of tyres, the top 15 have to start on the tyre they qualified on, in this case the soft tyre, so everyone down to Jeffrey Fournier in 15th position will be starting on the softs. Dan Brewer in 16th place is the top driver to start on the medium compound of tyre, and pretty much the whole second half of the grid are starting on mediums with the exception of Stefan Rohr and Chris Shepherd. So that's your tyre update. In terms of new engines, the drivers taking new engines for today are one of the Holland Racing cars, one of the Stax Racing cars, one of the Road to Formulas, one of the Sparks, and both Red Archer Virtual Racing Team cars. So we do have, that's about maybe
I would
a sixth of the
wager
grid.
Vincent is the Spark with the new engine because Loic didn't do any laps in the race in Australia, so the engine's probably fine, you think?
Well, that would also make it a new engine, so it could just as easily be.
Oh,
like
that's
Meunier.
true, that's true.
But anyway, to the grid they go, and we will await the 5 red lights which will illuminate at the front of the grid, and when they go out we will be underway for 58 laps of racing here at Istanbul Park. Sergio Fletcher lines up at the back. I don't think his qualifying performance was particularly representative, so expect Sergio Fletcher to be making up positions at the start. Who do you have for the win? It could be any one of a number of drivers, and we're about to find out because we're underway. Loic Meunier leads us along the starting straight up to turn 1. Meunier has the lead, followed by Frelick and Wach now. Wach fends off Alessandro Maggio, who challenged there for 3rd. Jan Grangqvist, championship leader, is in 5th position and fending off Matthew Williams as they go up through turns 3 and 4. It looks to have been a clean start. I think everyone's made it through the first couple of corners okay, although this is the bit where it starts to get really tight and twisty, and you see cars weaving about to try to gain track position. It's 3 wide in the background there, as it usually is at this point in the race. And you can see the THRs starting to make up places as well. That looks like Jarl Tyen about to take 10th place. Stays 11th for the time being, with Tom Stevens in 13th. He has not yet made up a position. Yellow flags out there somewhere. That's always a little bit daunting on the first lap of the race. Vincent Gutt has now dropped to the back. Something may have happened to him. Matt Richards now dropping to the back of the field himself. But it looks as if everyone is still running nicely, so that's good to see. Here's Tyen lining up the Maciej Mwynek's HRT just in front of him. Down the back straight you can see Stevens lining up. Oh, and very wide there goes Hygo Poom. Looks as if he was slightly caught off guard by the braking of the cars in front of him. Into the final corner they go, and out of the first lap, Tyen attempting to overtake Winnick once again. Hygo Poom still challenging both of the THRs, and through into turn 1 goes Tom Stevens. Just about fends it off on the outside line, and here comes Jeffrey Fournier through to 13th. In fact, he might take 12th here up into to turn 2. But yes, a really good, relatively clean start. Big switch.
It's Kilk. Kilk just lost it there.
Gathers it up, but still a clean start. Every car still running in this race. Oh, Mark Schluter's had to pit, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, that compounds a really tough start to the season for Schluter, isn't it? After qualifying outside the top 15 for the second race in a row, now he hits trouble in the early phases. But yeah, first off, I'm amazed that Heiko Poom didn't crash into the back of Tyne or Milnik there, because he got very, very close to doing so into turn 12 there. And secondly, the other thing that stood out to me, apart from just before that massive tank slapper that Wright Kilk saved, was Vac jumping Maggio at the start. It looked like Maggio was just a little bit wrong-footed, left the door open into the first corner. Vac slotted up the inside and has now pulled a comfortable 7/10 gap for the time being. Is now Tyne going back around the outside of Milnik into turn 12, but once again, Masic Milnik shuts the door and no way through for either of the THRs then. So he's very much the fly in the ointment that's stopping Tyne, who's got really good straight line speed clearly, but not quite able to make use of it because of brilliant defensive driving from Milnik in that HRT ahead of him.
Remember this year that DRS is enabled from lap 2, so they've already got DRS enabled, and if you're within 1 second of the car in front of you through the detection zone, you can open up that flap and it helps with overtaking. They also have push to pass available, but it's very difficult to keep track of because we don't know when they're using the push to pass or how much push to pass they have remaining. Tom Stevens here in 12th position will be hoping his push to pass lasts basically the whole race. He's got plenty of overtaking ahead of him if he's going to make up some ground in this race. Currently running in 12th position, flying through that turn 8 sequence. Stein Hangraf pointed out to us in the YouTube chat that Schluter had no front wing. I presume pointed that out before we saw him, and unfortunately we've now got Matt Richards, the first retirement of the day. So Richards retires. Only 29 of our 30 starters remain in this race, and hopefully we'll be able to see replays soon of what happened to Schluter and of course Richards. Jarl Tyre now making a move on Macho Winnick up into 10th position. So one of the THRs is running in the top 10 for the first time today. Now heading up towards the end of the third lap of the race, starting lap 4. And Tom Stevens is on the back of Winnick already, so we should hopefully have 2 THRs challenging, that is hopefully 4 THR, have 2 THRs challenging for the higher points paying positions anytime now. Stevens is now through into 11th, Ed.
Yeah, definitely a bit of push to pass used by Stevens down the main straight, just to make sure he wasn't held up any longer than he absolutely had to behind Maciej Milnik there. But yeah, we're going to see a replay of what happened to the unfortunate Welshman Matt Richards then. Race wasn't going too strongly, hadn't qualified particularly well, and needs to just get disconnected. Yes, yeah. He does. Comes to a shuddering halt there at turn 3, and that's a big shame. There is Schluter's front wing disappearing as him, Fischer, and is that Jeffrey Fournier all going side by side there through 3, 4, and 5. So just no room there for Mark Schluter. And when you don't qualify particularly high up, you become vulnerable to this sort of melee, don't you?
Yeah, it's the second Epic Racing car there, so I don't think it's Fournier. That
Brewer,
would have been Daniel Brewer, indeed. And unfortunately, Mark Schluter, he'll have absolutely no grip going into that corner there. Holds on pretty well, actually, but obviously he'll get gobbled up by the field as he goes on. He's now down in 29th position. I noticed that Richard was running on his own as he before his disconnections. Something was clearly...
Spun on the first lap, I believe.
Okay.
He did fall behind, didn't he?
I was going to say something was very wrong with that Fraser Tartan kart, or the race that he'd been leading up until that point. Biggest winner on that first lap appears to have been Sergio Fletcher. Look, up 7 positions. Chris Shepherd also up 6. Biggest loser, unfortunately, Matt Richards, our first DNF. And still plenty of time left, and 11 positions lost there for Mark Schluter as a result of that collision. We didn't quite see what caused it, but it did look as if he got locked together with Dan Brewer for a couple of corners actually, and that's what can happen in these open wheel cars. And unfortunately the front wing would have been crunched in that melee somewhere. So Matt Richards out of Mark Schluter out of contention in this race. And as you say, this has been a really tough start to the year for him, but then again, it was last year as well. He retired from the first 2 races of the season and then ended up 3rd in the championship, so still do not count out Mark Schluter for some wins later on in the year. But unfortunately, it looks as if his championship charge is rather stalling out in the early stages of the 2025 season.
Yeah, but crucially, he's still in this race, though. So easy to get taken out for the first 2 races, like we saw last season, and then just give yourself a mountain to climb. But he can still fight from here. It's just going to be much, much harder because he's going to have to go on a very different strategy to everybody else. As it looks like in the background, Fletcher gaining another position into 22nd. So exactly what he needed to do on those medium tyres, pick off those who started on the hards and use the advantage of that valley. In fact, it's Pascal Polenz that he's just usurped there. So we're looking at Fletcher's teammate Maggio just shadowing Thomas Vack and trying to get back through. And this is the move that I was just talking about. It looks like a DRS pass into turn 12 then. Polenz tries to get to the middle of the road to fend off. He's got DRS himself from one of the cars in front of him. That must be the Adonis Panzer, I believe. But yeah, Fletcher pretty comfortably got to the inside and is just continuing to build momentum. We saw this last season in those brilliant cameo drives, didn't we? That Fletcher was just very, very good at picking off cars one after the other, occasionally doing a few double moves when he's feeling really brave. But the Spaniard just shows absolutely no fear in wheel-to-wheel combat. And that's a big strength to not just him, but the Valet team as well. And I would not be surprised to see Fletcher challenging for the points in the later stages of this race then, as we look at Frelick, who's getting closer and closer to the back of Loic Moynier then as we go towards the start of lap 7.
Yeah, it's quite something seeing a Spark car leading a race. I don't know when the last time that happened was, but Spark are not really expecting to keep up with the others in terms of research and development as the season goes along. They need these points now if they're going to have some big championship results, and Loic Mounier appears to be the driver who's going to deliver that for them if anyone can. This does remind me though of Alessandro Maggio in the last race. Of course, Maggio took pole position, but due to his inexperience ended up dropping back through the field and then crashing out. He's currently running in 4th position, doing a very good job at the start of this race. Mounier is also inexperienced, so you've got this question of, he's clearly got the pace, but is that pace able to be converted into a race win? Szymon Frelick, of course, also quite young, but we know he's got experience in GPVWC. He's done plenty of super lights. He was very competitive in Formula Sprint 1 and Formula Sprint 2 over the years as well. His Formula Sprint 1 campaign last year was absolutely dominant. He would absolutely have won that championship had he done the full year, but unfortunately he was not quite able to do that. And I'm afraid to say, Ed, we've now lost Mark Schluter from the order, so the driver who was involved in the Schmozzle on the first lap and lost his front wing has now called it a day at the back of the order, and that means we have just 28 cars remaining. And just like last year, Mark Schluter's championship has got off to an absolute cruel.
Yeah, that's kind of the kiss of death, isn't it? Because I said predicted him to win the championship pre-season, and now it's it doesn't seem to be going to plan, at least so far. But I'm sure it takes more than that for him to give us. We see Right Kilk seems to have had another moment and has dropped down behind Dylan Fisher because he's come into the pit lane, of course. So just like Australia, I remember Red Archer were the first to sort of roll the dice and pit for some hard tyres. It looks like the team is doing the same thing again with Kilk, who we saw absolutely put his tyres into a massive heat cycle on the first couple of laps with that massive tank slap he had through 3 and 4. But going back to your point about Loic Moynier, as we see yellow in the first sector, I hope that's nothing to do with Kilk coming out the pit lane there. But you were saying that Moynier was inexperienced in GPV terms, yes, but I think given that I've been commentating on him in R-Factor 2 and endurance racing, all sorts of other things for at least 5 or 6 years now, I think it's a little bit silly to suggest that he is inexperienced and doesn't know what he's doing, because I think he absolutely does. As we see Andrzejewski, oh dear, so the FS1 points leader having a bit of a tough time here in his debut drive here in green stripes as he loses the rear end. So easy to do that when the rear brakes lock, but he does get going again in 27th position behind. That must be Vincent Gutt, who's just gotten through.
It is indeed. We're now watching Andrzejewski on his recovery drive. Yeah, don't worry about Mounier. I wasn't trying to suggest that he doesn't know what he's doing, just that he's inexperienced in this actual type of machinery. Then again, he had a 4th place finish last year, so who knows what
he'll be listening back to this. I'm just saying, you know, he's saying, well, he's as inexperienced as Maggio. I feel like is a little bit of a. I think both of them are really, really good drivers, but I feel like Loic might take issue with that.
Well, no offense intended, Loic, and I'm very impressed with how you're doing so far.
What am I doing? I shouldn't be getting offended on drivers' behalf. So I should let you do what you do what you're doing, Caitlin. Go on.
So we were talking about Riot Kilt coming into the pits earlier. I was talking, of course, with Carlos Martin earlier on about strategy, and if there's one thing Carlos Martin knows, it's strategy. He was saying that 2 stops are pretty much the way to go. They tend to be the standard in these Grand Prix, but of course there is the potential for 3 stops, especially here at this track, because you can overtake. If you're fast enough, then there are plenty of long straights. You got this one, you got the one they're going on to now, separated by that chicane, and then of course you've got the run up from turn 6 to turn 7 as well. So there are a good few overtaking opportunities on this track, but Carlos still said track position is very important here, and I'm expecting at least Carlos to go for a 2-stop strategy. Riot Kilt may be doing something a little bit different. Same goes for Justin van der Smissen, actually, who seems to be the only car out there on hard tyres as we speak. The top driver on mediums is still Dan Brewer. Jeffrey Fournier losing a couple of places, and I see a car in the pits in the background, so that'll be Fournier. And Heiko Poom follows him in. So Fournier and Poom doing something similar, and this is a very early pit stop, so this could well be a 3-stop strategy, Ed. What would you say to that?
Interesting, certainly. Riot Kilt seems to have started a trend, just like we saw in Australia, and it's Fournier that gets out ahead of Heiko Poom. Both of them on the mediums, I think, just like we saw Kilt do. There's a move going on just in front of them. That looks like, is that Hoekstra and Gut going side by side, and it's Vopke that's made it through there. Good to see Vopke putting in an overtake on his return here, but it looks like the... Is that the... Yeah, he's not done yet. Is the Stax car there? Sorry, it wasn't Vincent Gut. I think that might be Istvan Singel there that's just been pipped there. Now Jeffrey Fournier getting those tyres up to temperature. He wants to pass Singel, but he's got Poom right behind him to worry about as well. And I apologise, Poom is on the hards, not the mediums there. So definitely a split in strategies between the two, but they have leapfrogged Riot Kilt. You can just see in the background, and Frelick takes the lead using DRS into turn 12. So there we go. We saw he was challenging Moynier for a couple of laps, and now Moynier has decided he's not going to defend the inside particularly vociferously. He's going to tuck back in, wait for his own go on DRS. But Jarl Tyne, he's had enough of being stuck at the back of this train. He is coming into the pits, and with him comes one of the other cars. I think that was that one, the Red Archers. It's probably Chris Shepherd, I think, also coming into the pits.
Yeah. Now, we've seen from the likes of Fournier and Poom that the disadvantage of pitting so early is you tend to be stuck in traffic. That is why Carlos said that track position is so important here. Here's Jan Grankvist running in 5th position. The trouble is they're kind of already in traffic here, surrounded by their peers at the front of the grid, and it might actually be worth coming in just for that sliver of a chance of some clean air. By the way, the battling duo we saw was Pavel Andrzejewski and Vincent Gut, I think, going at it, and Vincent Gut has come out ahead of Andrzejewski for the time being. But yeah, they're fighting for position, and now they've got the likes of Fournier and Poom to contend with as well, coming out of the pits after their own pit stops. Interesting to see Poom go onto hard tyres. He could still be going for a 2-stop strategy, or it might just be that harder tyres are the better ones to be on today. Here's Frelick's move. It's relatively straightforward. He's got the DRS open. He's presumably using push to pass. He goes up the inside, and there is nothing that Loic Mounier can do about that. That's our first change of lead of the day, and it's Shimon Frelick in the TOP Esports car who is the beneficiary. But of course, still a long way to go in this race. Still plenty of strategy options. And I saw a car in the pits. Is it Maggio? Alessandro Maggio is in the pits from 4th position in the race, and he is quite well known for not being particularly good on tyres, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him going for a 3-stop strategy himself.
Yeah, we will have to see then. It's bold. Interesting to see Maggio pulling the trigger so early as well. Stevens, of course, reacting to what Jarl Tyne did. Looks like Maggio is going to come out side by side with that Stax car of Istvan Singel, who he does just about clear, actually. So that's crucial for Maggio. He's not going to be held up on this outlap here. But of course, remember, he was in the top 4. He's going to get a big undercut then on Frelick Moynier back, and it should be enough to keep him ahead of Jan Grankvist at the very, very least here. But we'll have to see what the lap times are like for both sets of drivers then. So this train up the front Are they going to react to that, or are they going to hold station and try and stick to a safer two-stop where they run a much longer first stint and have much fresher tyres at the start of stint number 2? Now look at that. That's Moynier being closed in here by Thomas Vac now. So maybe like Moynier genuinely struggling because he's immediately come into the pits as Vac goes a little bit wide at the last corner, and Jan Grankvist is upon him as there's a rush of activity in the pit lane, as I think Lalu is also coming in. He's dragging a few others with him.
Lalu and Lahu, and I think Lalu actually passed Lahu on his way into the pits there. Maciej Winnick also in now, and on the last lap, Stevens, Rohr and Fischer came in. So it is rather busy in the pit lane as we speak. So it's Mounier, Lalu, Winnick and Lahu in the pits right now. Yellow flags very briefly, lasting a little while actually. That's when you know you have to be a little bit more worried. But anyway, on board with Jan Grankvist, he's now up into 3rd position, at least for the time being. I'm sorry I didn't jump in just now. I'd unfortunately left myself on mute, but well done for picking that up when I couldn't. Pavel Andrzejewski pitting from the back of the grid. He could do with doing something a little bit different at this point in time to get himself back into contention. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the likes of Frelick, Wok and Grankvist into the pits very shortly. To be honest though, Frelick's got the pace still. He's actually pulling away from Tomasz Wok, who is under pressure from Jan Grankvist. Grankvist is going to go to the outside line. Wok covered the inside, but there's not really much difference between the two. Jan Grankvist has managed to get through, and into the pits comes Tomasz Wok as expected. Grankvist stays out, as do Williams and Carlos Martin behind Ed.
And Frelick's come in as well, crucially from the lead, but Maggio was setting purple first sectors. Stevens as well, purple in the middle sector, so they had to react to it. Grankvist, though, is playing the long game, running a bit longer. This is what there we go. The AK here is spinning in front of Pavel Andrzejewski, so he has to get on the brakes before coming into the pit line. I think, was that Hygo? No, it was Dylan Fisher, sorry, I think.
And Maggio's passed Mounier. Sorry, Maggio has passed Mounier. He could potentially be in a podium position here. Now, whether he did that
125.8 for Maggio, that's 2 seconds quicker than the leaders.
Now, whether he did that on track or whether he jumped him in the pits, I didn't quite see. Ryan Mazumdar in the YouTube chat thinks he jumped him in the pits. But yes, Maggio is ahead of Loic Mounier as it is. Shimon Frelick
and he's ahead of Frelick.
Also ahead, and yes, Maggio's jumped both. This is great stuff from Alessandro Maggio. Pretty good from Stevens as well. He's now ahead of Tyan. Remember, it was Tyan leading the two THRs earlier on, and they've both jumped Tomasz Wok. Goodness me, it's all change, and I think it's it's a mix of the undercut and overcut. Sorry, I think it's really down to how much traffic you get stuck in when you come out of the pits, Ed.
Yeah, definitely, because Tyan actually pit the lap before Stevens, didn't he? And yet he's come out behind. So it was a risk from THR, but they've got their leading driver in the championship, the man who's finished a runner-up the last 2 seasons running, leading the charge. 1.5 seconds by Moynier. Grankvist and Williams are in from the lead, so it looks like Martin is pitting too. So this means Daniel Brewer, who started on the harder compounder tyres, is going to inherit the lead from Robin Panzer, and Sergio Fletcher, of course, started at the very, very back of the grid then. So Maggio, I think, has got the net lead here.
Brewer pits, so Panzer leads from Fletcher and Quint, and Maggio has gone through. So Maggio, and he's gained a couple of seconds
and there's
as well.
The THRs. Where is Grankvist? He's behind Stevens then, but ahead of Jarl Tyan. So he's come out right between them. No, Tyan's through as well.
Yeah, Tyan's just got him, so not great from Jan Grankvist there. A big undercut from the THRs. I knew they'd do something like that. RepRep F1 in the YouTube chat says that Lalu and Lahu came together. We didn't see that, but we did see a yellow flag. Where are they running? Well, Lalu's lost some time, so I think he's probably the worst affected in that. And where's Lahu?
1 second for Lahu.
Yeah, okay. I think they might both have been badly affected by that, to be honest. Right. As we speak, Maggio has just got past Mike Quint. Quint losing a couple of places. Is he coming into the pits maybe? Or is he just losing a lot of time on those tyres? Frelick goes through as well. Here's a replay. Now, is this the collision? This is Lahu we're watching. He's behind Lalu. Lalu himself is going for an overtake. And into turn one. Whoa! And Lahu comes in like an absolute missile and takes out Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Nothing that Lalu could have done about that. And Alex Tahoe gathers his thoughts and continues on with cartoony stars swirling around his head. Here we go. He'll have the DRS and he's just misjudged it. Locks up the tyres in panic, sheer panic, and ends up facing completely the wrong direction, Ed.
Yeah, you know the expression, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, where you want to eat a lot of food and then suddenly it becomes too much. Well, I think his eyes were bigger than his brake pedal there, unfortunately for him. So, yeah, the rears is locking up, and a bit of Alex Tahoe from that brilliant performance we saw in Australia to get on the podium. It's sort of a 0 to 0 in the space of 2 weeks, sadly, but certainly the race not over yet. He could still recover into the points, could the young Frenchman. So very, very exuberant driving, but unfortunately him and Lalu have both lost out as a result of that. I think Lalu would have been wisely advised to wait to pass Istvan Single there rather than trying to go through wide into turn 1.
His eyes were bigger than his brake pedal. I'll have to use that one. That's good. Ram Mazumda says Valle now have the option to swap the cars and let Sergio defend. I don't think they'll swap necessarily, but I don't think that Sergio will hold up Alessandro Maggio. There is Sergio Fletcher in the other Valle Esports car. But I do think they might keep him out a couple of laps longer. Never mind, he's in the pits. Well, I would have said to hold up the likes of Frelick and Munier, but anyway.
Maybe he's going to hold up Maggio, though. So it made no sense for Valle to keep him out there any longer.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I was going to say he would have let Maggio through pretty easily, but I guess this is the easiest way to do it of all. Matthias Pishan says, Maggio, rare strategy dub. He does seem to have done that rather well, actually. Pitted quite early, so he'll be on older tyres, and he's also on the mediums. Now, this is worth noting. Not only do we have to note the difference in strategy between 2 stoppers and 3 stoppers, but also the drivers who have switched onto mediums versus the drivers who have switched onto hards. Maggio has medium tyres, Frelick has hard tyres, therefore it's not too surprising to see Maggio pulling away from Frelick as it stands, and also setting those fastest laps after his stop. But it does mean that his tyres are going to go off sooner, and he will absolutely require another pit stop, potentially 2 more pit stops, whereas Frelick, to be honest, will probably also require another pit stop, but it won't be quite as pressing. So definitely don't think it's done and dusted for Alessandro Maggio right now. He is about to take the lead back from Robin Pansar by the look of it. He's slipstreaming in, and he should go past, and there he goes. Pansar does not put up too much of a fight. So another lead change, and this time it goes the way of Alessandro Maggio, who I think is our 5th different official leader in this race so far. And Robin Pansar now comes into the pits.
Yep, it was about time for the Adonis to put some fresh tyres on, so this is a replay of that. So, yeah, he did 17 laps all told on the medium tyre, so a pretty good stint then from Robin Pansar. We'll have to see where he filters out, but there you saw Maggio just had loads of overspeed, and Robin wasn't even going to try and keep him behind there because he knew he was pit lane bound. Maggio sets another personal best lap of the race, 125.8, so that's about 6-7 tenths quicker than Simon Frelick behind him. So yes, the medium's still working well, but as you say, Caitlin, there's one of the question marks over Maggio that he himself admitted was getting on top of tyre wear as well. So it's something that's caught him out in races I've seen him do at Istanbul Park before as well, where he seemed to be on the right strategy and then just ran out of tyres with a couple of laps to go and got overtaken and lost the win to Christian Pascal, I believe it was, in that particular race that I'm thinking of. But yeah, Maggio certainly is going to know that he needs to make hay while the sun shines and while the mediums are working well. Frelick, meanwhile, has got to worry about Moynier on the exact same strategy right behind him. Stevens, of course, him and Tyen will be on older tyres and Grankvist behind. So this is really a management phase for the THRs where they need to make sure they don't fall too far behind this podium fight, but also they don't leave the door open for Grankvist to attack them, because he's not going to need any further encouragement. And don't forget about Matthew Williams as well, setting personal best first sectors himself, could still be a threat to all of them. So yeah, 2nd through to 7th, I think, is really anybody's game. And even Thomas Vack, we can't count him out of it as well, because he's the guy that hit a bit later and is on fresher tyres than those in front. Oh, very close from Stevens, as you say.
And he's upset Munier there. Munier went a little bit wide, potentially in anticipation of what Stevens was going to do. I was wondering if he was going to launch a dive into that corner, but I think that would have been a little bit opportunistic. But I tell you what an upset the THR guys have pulled in this race so far. Remember, they qualified 12th and 13th on the grid. They're up to 4th and 5th, and that appears to be their genuine positions in this race. Stevens up 9 places as it stands, not as many as Sergio Fletcher, who's doing a great job in 16th position as it stands, but then again he was out of position on the grid, as we all knew. Shepard and Van der Smissen are both in pits, by the way, just outside of the top 25. So we often talk about the pound seat in these races, basically the mid-race pole position for who looks the most likely to win. Right now we kind of have 2 pound seats. We have Alessandro Maggio and Shimon Frelick, both of them leading their own individual strategy train, with Alessandro Maggio the top driver on mediums, and Shimon Frelick the top driver on hards. We might, as Geoffrey Fournier picks off Munich for 10th place there, getting up into that position, we might end up with a little battle at the end, a battle of the strategies, where it kind of diverges mid-race and then comes back together towards the end. It's always exciting when that kind of thing happens. And I can very much see Frelick maybe extending out to a 2-stopper or something like that, and Maggio having to catch him at the end. This is not over yet, even though Maggio has a considerable lead of 3.5 seconds. Because we're not even halfway through this race, Ed. But anyway, there's Loic Mounier still holding 3rd position, despite the challenge from Stevens behind him. Then it's Tyen and Grangqvist. Grangqvist probably not used to losing positions at this time in the race. And then, of course, the rest of the top 10, Williams, Wach, Martin, Geoffrey Fournier as it stands.
Yeah, for Mounier, no need to panic just yet, but if he sees Maggio starting to just waltz off into the distance, building a massive gap, and he's still stuck behind Simon Frelick, then might be the time to start to get a bit worried, especially if Tom Stevens starts upping his pace and starts shifting around in the background, inching to make a move. So it's you never really want to be Malcolm in the middle in this sort of situation where you've got Frelick in front of you and Stevens behind you, 2 top drivers that are both very used to the business of winning, and Loic Mounier yet to take a Super League win, or even he's got very close to a Super League podium, as we said, 4th place in Austria last season, but definitely still in the box seats as things stand. Once Maggio will have to pit early, of course, but if Mounier just waits for his moment to use DRS on Frelick and maybe saves a bit of push to pass for the final moment, he may be able to get the drop on him. But yeah, the threat is going to come from the more experienced, as you say, THR team and Jan Grangqvist behind. And Grangqvist now starting to really look under pressure from Matthew Williams. Meanwhile, Sergio Fletcher has gotten into the points past Alex Lahoe and is now starting to close on Kilk, who, of course, was the first to pit. So he's struggling the most on his medium tyres. He's done 13 laps on them at the moment.
Brian Mazumda pointing out that Alessandro Maggio is not gaining, not pulling away from Shimon Frelick at this point in the race. And that's very true. Again, don't panic. There are a couple of different strategies in play. And we're at the stage on the medium tyres where actually holding that time compared to the hard tyres is potentially the best you can do. Jacob Shuarte also says, where is Reuven Machedi? He of course drove for Valley Esports in the last race, but he was only a placeholder in place of Sergio Fletcher, who is now here and running in 15th position from the back of the grid, doing a good job there and looking strong for some points. So Machedi you will see in the Super Lights races, I expect. We're about to see a replay of Sergio Fletcher making a move, I think on Alex Lahoe. Here we are going down the straight, and that will be a relatively straightforward one. Again, with DRS, there are definitely some overtaking opportunities on this track, definitely more than we had at Melbourne last time out, and that makes this racetrack a little bit unique. Here's Chris Shepard now, running 27th, and is he going to have a little spin? There he goes, runs wide, rejoins the track, not losing too much time. That's a little whoopsie, but he won't sweat that too much. He'll just get on with whatever he was doing, and we'll see him later on. But yeah, 27th as it is currently for Chris Shepard. Meanwhile, Shimon Frelick is back within 3 seconds of Maggio for the first time since the pit stops. You may well be right that Maggio's taken a bit too much life out of his tyres from the start, and of course Frelick will go longer in this stint.
Yeah, of course, this is where the pain of that undercut will come back to bite him a little bit, but luckily he has built up that just over 3-second gap in the first place. But now Simon Frelick will know this is where he needs to really start to gain time then, because once Maggio pits again, he'll be on the fresh tyres once again. So this could well be, it depends how early Maggio pits here, whether they're going to convert to a free stop or stick with the what seems to be the standard 2-stop. But yeah, this is a make up your mind time for Valley Esports there. As you see there, nearly 4/10 gained from Frelick on this previous lap then, as we also see his, Maggio's teammate Fletcher getting through into 14th and setting another personal best lap of those, because Ray Kilker's pitted now. So this is Red Archer definitely on the free stop strategy.
Yeah, Kilk was the first driver to pit, and now he's the first driver to have pitted for the second time as well. So expect an alternate strategy from that particular team and driver. Ryan Mazemda saying Ruben Machete deserves to be in SL1. I agree. I think that Ruben Machete is definitely good enough to be in this grid, and I hope that we see some more outings from him later on in this series. Anyway. Sorry, I just heard something.
I don't want to lose him, says Remco, team manager of Optimal Esports. So no surprises there. Oh no, his Maggio just been disconnected. Oh, that is cruel.
Well, first of all, I'd like to apologise to Remco. I just called you Vincent Gutt. But yes, unfortunately, we have lost Alessandro Maggio from this race. That looks to be a straight disconnection from the lead. So we will never know how that strategy would have worked itself out. We're going to see a replay of what happened. I hope it was just a disconnection, because we can't have 2 mistakes, 2 races in a row. But yeah, he's on a straight, so clearly nothing. And there we go, and he just disappears. So Alessandro Maggio will be gutted with that. He wasn't able to show his performance last time out. He won't be able to show it this time either, as Chris Shepherd comes slowly into the pit lane. But for Alessandro Maggio, that is bitter gall, Ed.
Very bitter. Yeah, so Shepherd had done 8 laps, I think, and then he did 4 laps and came in very slowly to retire. So I think Chris must have had a more terminal issue on board that Red Archer there. All was very clearly not well, because he was sort of struggling. He hadn't qualified particularly well, and he wasn't having a great race. And Alex Lahoe's out now as well. They just seem to be dropping like flies. So both Alexes go in the space of a lap, and that's a huge shame, because Maggio, I think, had things under control. Lahoe was just struggling to keep the points scorers in sight. Here he is into turn 1. And does he just, have a big snap around, and I think he decides he's just had enough at that point, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's always interesting when drivers have a spin and then disconnect, because you're never sure whether they just gave up or whether they maybe didn't have auto clutch mapped and the engine stalled or something along those lines. It could have been either, but anyway, the result is the same. He's out of the race. Now we're watching Loic Mounier running in second position ahead of Tom Stevens and Jarl Tyne, as he has been for a while. Jukka-Pekka Laulu losing some places. Is he in the pits, maybe? Or is it Fournier in the pits? One of the two, I think. Fournier. So Fournier pits, drops down out of the top 10. Could see nothing was happening with Laulu there. And Geoffrey Fournier, that's his second stop of the race. It's about that time where we would start to expect that. So with Maggio's DNF, that of course means that Shimon Frelick is back in the lead, but it means of course that this race we've been watching is now the battle for the lead. It's a train of 7 cars here, nearly 8 actually, looking at the gap back to Martin. We've got Frelick, Mounier, Stevens, Tyne, Grankvist, Williams and Wok, all within DRS range of each other. And this is one of the tensest types of racing, because they rather cancel each other out. Obviously Mounier has DRS from Stevens, but from Frelick, but Stevens also has DRS from Mounier, Tyne from Stevens, etc, etc. If anyone uses push to pass, that could very easily also be used by their opponents, and then you're just kind of draining all of your energy for no good reason. You're staying in the same position. So it's the time for tactical racing, where you don't necessarily want to use up absolutely everything unless you're losing too much time in this train, and then you want to go with it. But my goodness, it's difficult to pick your movement, to pick your pass And even if you do decide to go, sometimes it's one thing to decide to make that move and another thing to actually make it stick, Ed.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Look at this, because Frelick went for the track position with that overtake. Was it just before the pit stops, wasn't it? A couple of laps beforehand on Moynier. And remember what he said after Australia, where he made that little mistake that allowed Lahoud to make the double move and steal the podium from me. He said, I was catching him at the end if only there was another lap or two. Well, now he's got the lead to himself. It's a very, very different scenario, isn't it? So this is where we're really going to see Simon Frelick tested well and truly for the first time in Super League, because he's got to keep Moynier, a very, very quick, very experienced in R Factor 2 driver, then the big heavyweights like Stevens, Ty, and Grankvist, all race winning, in the case of Grankvist, championship winning drivers, all nipping at his heels then. So Simon, on the harder tyres, you would think him and Moynier are just going to shadow each other in terms of strategy, unless Loic is feeling very brave. But look at his lines into turn 12, by the way. He's getting very close on the inside. Of course, he's getting a lovely toe with the DRS, whereas Frelick is denied that, being the guy in the lead. As we see somebody pitting, I think that was a lapped car coming. No, it's the old Tyan, sorry. So Tyan again, first in.
If it's okay, Remco, I'd like to see what tyres everyone's on. We have a lovely graphic for that, because you can see Stevens is still on those medium tyres, and Jarl Tyan himself also was. So I was anticipating a stop for the THRs soon. I'm just wondering whether this will put them out of sequence, because obviously I was commenting just now about how they jumped up the order quite considerably as Tyan comes out just in front of Pascal Pollens there. They jumped up the order quite considerably from their starting position, but some of that may have been the Alessandro Maggio effect, just putting on those medium tyres and rocketing their way through the traffic early in the stint. Of course, the softer the tyre is, the faster it is early in the stint, and the faster you can get the heat into it as well. The trouble with that, of course, is that if they... And Tyan's on another set of mediums here. This could be a 3-stop for them, potentially. I was going to say...
Williams and Grankvist setting purple sectors here. I wonder if Jan is either sizing up for a move or thinking about coming in here. So look how close Loic is again to Simon in that battle for the lead then. Will Grankvist dive for the pits in reaction? No, Stevens will, of course, on the mediums himself. So he had to do that to keep Jarl Tyan behind. So this is going to be close with the THRs as Stevens just about slows it down in time, locking up the brakes before the pit lane speed limit line. But yeah, this has to be a quick stop here. And I think Grankvist knew he was going to have that clear air in front of him, wanted to catch back up to the back of Moynier as soon as possible.
So Tyan is now the top driver on medium tyres, unless Stevens does the same thing, which he does. So Stevens emerges from the pit lane. Now, where is he in relation to his teammate? It won't matter to the team boss, of course. And Jarl Tyan is behind, only just behind those, so they stay in the same order and pretty much the same standing that they were before those pit stops as well. But this very well could be a 3-stop strategy for the THRs. They have to be so fast on these outlaps, and they have to get through this traffic like it's not there in order to benefit from this strategy. And the car ahead of them is Dan Brewer, so that won't be easy in the slightest. Dan Brewer, of course, for a long time was the top driver on medium tyres himself. Whoa! Stevens taking a look to the inside. Brewer says, oh, no, you don't. I'm taking this corner. And wow, Stevens is lucky to still have a front wing there. He nearly got that chopped straight off, Ed.
Yeah, that was a typical Tom Stevens absolute up the inside Brover into turn 8, which we expect him to do. But I think Dan Brewer was certainly not expecting that whatsoever. Here we go, DRS down the back straight into turn 12, and are both THRs going to pick off the Epic Racing car of Dan Brewer. Well, they're certainly going to try to, as Ty nearly loses it, and round goes Stevens! Oh no, we said he narrowly avoided collision, but this time he was not so lucky. Stevens and Brewer come together. That is the last thing that either of them needed to do.
And they got locked together as well. That could cost them a good 10-20 seconds. What a disaster there as they continue on their way. And hopefully there's not too much damage. That can wrench suspensions out of alignment. And what a disaster for Tom Stevens. Tyan was having a big twitch on the entrance to the corner, but that might have actually saved him.
He didn't clatter into both of them. Yeah, if that happened, we could be seeing a massive heart attack for Toby Davis right now.
So I was watching Tyan when that happened. I thought that he might have been about to have a big... Oh, he's gone into him again! Oh my goodness! Stevens runs right into the back of Daniel Brewer. What is going on between those two? That's 2 collisions and 1 nearly collision in the space of a lap. And I expect the stewards will be getting involved in this. And Stevens, once again, is lucky to still have a front wing. What is going on here? But anyway, continues on his way. So, as I was about to say, Jarl Tyan, if he hadn't had that big twitch on the entrance to the corner, might well have got involved in that accident. I think he was trying to set up a switchback or something along those lines and ended up rather being saved by that. But anyway, across the line we go once again. Loic Mounier within half a second of Szymon Frelick now at the front of the grid. But what do you make of that, Ed? 2 collisions in the space of about half a lap.
Yeah, that second one was a bit tricky to call because it looked like a sort of bit of an optimistic move. And then he sort of slid on the brakes and sort of clumsily clattered into him. So I think Tom Stevens will argue that that wasn't revenge. That was just him being a bit impatient and kind of just clattering into the back of him. But I guess we'll have to talk to him afterwards, as Dylan Fisher has somehow stayed out of all of that chaos, and he's finally come in for another set of tyres. This would be Fisher's second stop, because he's done 18 laps then, I think, on the hard tyres. Has something happened to Mounier? No, this is the start. Okay, that's the start.
Okay, thank goodness.
Going back to. So István Singal going through turn 8 behind, I think that's Vopke Hoekstra in front of him. Is it? Oh, big twitch there. And that's going to be difficult to rejoin because you sort of touch the grass as you do so, going back from the runoff area. And he's lucky not to hit the wall there. So that's one very, very lucky Hungarian there. Tom Stevens, meanwhile, very, very fired up, set the fastest first sector of the race. In 14th, as this is Martin having a bit of a off-track moment through turn 1, but collects it up neat and tidy. This is the sort of race where you just keep going. You never know how many points you can get with everybody clattering into each other and falling off the road at the moment.
Yeah, sorry to any Mounier fans, I just panicked. I saw we were cutting back through the replay and it looked like he'd gone into the pits, but anyway, he continues on his way.
I saw the time of day was different, so I thought, this is the start, it's all fine.
Good spot there, Ed. But yeah, unfortunately, we saw an unfortunate spin for István Singal. He's done a good job to gather that up, and he's very lucky. There's a lot of runoff there. There's a yellow flag out there now. Dan Brewer is dropping, and Dan Brewer retires. So we've lost another driver from the race, and it's the epic racing car of Dan Brewer, who we've just seen coming into contact with Tom Stevens on a number of occasions, and hopefully, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he got some suspension damage from that, which either led to something else or led to him deciding to quit and save the engine. But Dan Brewer is another retirement. And here comes a replay of what's just happened. He's coming down the straight, he pulls over, and he pulls up. So out of the race goes Daniel Brewer. But, wow, it's got a bit frenetic all of a sudden, Ed.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Dan Brewer is fuming at the moment, but I imagine very similar invective coming from the helmet of Tom Stevens as well. Meanwhile, Grankvist doing exactly what he promised he would do. He's coasted right up to the back of Mounier, who still cannot get past Szymon Frelick for neither love nor money. And now Matthew Williams and Thomas Vacker joining the party as well, as we see Panzar being passed by Jarl Tyan, who somehow stayed out of trouble while his teammate has hit issues and has gotten up into the top 10 on his fresh tyres then. So next target, Hygo Poom. But yeah, Tyan, after crashing out in Australia, is making it good on his strategy here. So that's going to start to put pressure on the front runners who are running longer on the hards in this phase.
So 24 cars remaining in this race now. 30 started it. I wasn't actually expecting it to be a particularly high attrition race. I know I mentioned attrition earlier, but I was talking about that mainly from a strategic point of view in terms of tyres and things like that. But you don't tend to see that many accidents here at Istanbul, because as István Singal demonstrated just a few minutes ago, there is a lot of runoff here if things are to go wrong. Your main issue here is other drivers, of course, coming into contact with other drivers. That can happen with these slightly deceptive corners that open up and then close up. Jarl Tyan now going for a move on Hygo Poom, goes through. These two not on the same strategy, but still an important move to be made nonetheless. And Mounier was very briefly within 0.4 of a second of Frelick just then. That's roughly the attacking range if you get onto the straight, so I'm keeping an eye on that. Meanwhile, Heiko Poom looked as if he was coming back at Jarl Tyen for a second there. Tyen fends him off, and he will set off after Maciej Winnick now, who is also on a similar strategy to Poom. Tell you what, that shows you how well Poom's done in this race, and he's keeping up with Maciej Winnick. Jarl Tyen catching up with him now as it is.
Yeah, and Heiko was quite far down the grid, wasn't he? So definitely outside. I think, pretty sure he started outside the top 15, did Heiko Poom? Yeah, he definitely did, because I don't remember him starting there. So yeah, definitely a interesting strategy from AK Hero once again, because remember, they did the final stint on the softs, and Dylan Fisher was just about fighting his way into the lower points positions as well. So it definitely seems like they've got similar intentions of doing it all over again here. I just kind of for the life of me remember where Heiko actually qualified, but oh no, he was 11th. He was inside the top 15. My apologies. So actually, Heiko is one place better than where he qualified at the moment, even with all the chaos. So he's actually doing a pretty solid job relative to his pace to stay out of trouble. As we see now, Jarl Tyen lining up Milnek as they go towards, oh, it's going to be through turn 11, but DRS just flapping open just enough space there left by the HRT, but Jarl Tyen not going to be intimidated. Up the inside he goes, as we see Poom being picked off by Panzar in the background as well. Oh, as Heiko just about avoids bumping into the back of the Adonis, as somebody pitting up ahead. That looks like Jukka-Pekka Lalu coming in for his second stop.
Yep, so Lalu in for his second stop, will drop out of the top 10. But don't panic, of course, it will come back to him. We are 34 laps into this 58-lap race. That's roughly, well, nearly 2/3 of the way through. Not quick enough to do that maths off the top of my head right now, but there you go. The drivers will know what they're doing, and the second pit window is in full swing. The trouble, of course, is that we have a mix of 2 stoppers and 3 stoppers in this race. It does make it, you know, with respect to Maggio, it does make it a little more straightforward now that he's retired, because we don't have one of the absolute front runners 3 stopping. But of course, we have to keep our eyes on the THR, especially of Jarl Tyen, and of course Tom Stevens, although he may have damage and has definitely lost time in that as well. He's now over 10 seconds behind his teammate Jarl Tyen, having been right on the back of him for those pit stops were made. Timon Frelick continues on. All of the leaders continue on. So still no second pit stop for this bunch. But whenever they decide to pit now, I'm sure they can go to the end on whatever tyres they go for.
You know, I say this as a, keep in mind, an unapologetic Alessandro Maggio fan. I have been for some time. To be fair, I'm a fan of pretty much all of these drivers, all the way up and down the grid, even the subs. But I don't mind it being complicated. I think having everyone in a train and a wheel-to-wheel battle is great, but I also don't mind those who do something different. Get through the race one stop less, and now Quint in the middle of a sandwich here as he goes either side, with Dylan Fisher getting through on both of them, and Stefan Rott losing out and diving immediately for the pit lane there. So Mike Quinn did well just to sort of hold steady in the middle there and not do any sudden movements, because that's the sort of situation where you can find yourselves in a sort of Mark Schluter sort of squeeze like we saw in the first lap that took his front wing off and eventually took him out of the race essentially. So Mike Quinn doing very, very well to keep his head there on a race that he originally wasn't really scheduled to do. So yeah, Fisher on those fresh tyres, though, making good progress. Now him and Heiko just inside the final points paying position then, as they try and put pressure on Rate Kilk.
That's why Stefan Rott backed out of that one then, because he was coming into the pits and wanted no part of that. Look, Munier right on the back of Frelick once again, although it's a little deceptive, to be honest, that that time it comes together in the braking zones and then comes apart in the acceleration zones, but that was closer than I've seen in a little while. It very briefly said under 0.3 of a second. Someone else is in the pits.
Tyen a second faster than Frelick at the moment. He's win 15 seconds as side by side. Milnek just given enough room there by the Adonis that lets him go into the pits, albeit very, very reluctantly there.
Yeah, and Martin in the pits now as well. That was the other car that I was commenting on that I saw in the pit lane in the background. So Martin and Winnick both making their stops. 24 cars remain of the 30 who started. Looks as if all of those are still on the lead lap, I think, or at least almost all of them are. And Frelick continues to lead by 0.6 of a second as we await the second pit window for the leaders.
Yeah, I do think, by the way, we have Mark Schluter, who retired early on in the race, that wants to do a mid-race interview. Since we never seem to have time at the end to fit in everyone, we could get Mark out of the way now while the race is still going. Well, not that it's a race to get through the interviews, of course, but it would be interesting to hear what happened then. So, Mark Schluter now joins us on lap 36 of 58. Mark, I know you'd love to be taking part right now as we look at Mounier just continuing to pressurize Simon Frelick for the lead. Obviously, a really, really tough start to the race as race leader Frelick comes in for his pit stop. But tell us all about it, because you just got absolutely sandwiched on that first lap, and there was nothing you could have done to avoid it.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. Wanted to go a bit more aggressive because of another bad qualifying this year, and yeah, unfortunately, hit the back of Brewer, I think, and lost my wing, even though it was just a small hit. But yeah, happens.
Yeah, Pascal still going 18th at the moment, but starting to gain ground on the point scorers. Do you think he can salvage something from this? Because it desperately needed points for Edge at this point.
Yeah, I think if maybe one or two guys go out of the race, but yeah, I mean, we pretty much don't care if we go pointless or just 1 to 2 points. We want to go for the big points, and we're not able to do that at the moment.
Well, I care, at least a little, so... But anyway, commiserations, Mark. Thanks for coming to talk to us, and we'll see you next time out.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. So as we've just seen, Simon Frelick came into the pit lane. He's down in 8th position now, and we're watching Jan Grankvist challenging Mounier for the race lead. He goes to the outside. He's got 2 corners left in the lap. Now, is Mounier going to dive into the pits? He does. I expected that was going to happen. Grankvist could not have done, even if he'd wanted to, because Mounier was on his left-hand side. So we won't find out who would have won that battle. Instead, Jan Grankvist will lead them around for at least another lap, just ahead of Matthew Williams and Tomasz Vok. Mounier is in the pit, and now we have to wait and see where he will come out in relation to Simon Frelick. He may have lost out as a result of that battle. He would have lost a little bit of time, and that could well put Simon Frelick in front as he comes out of the pit lane now, and that is Frelick going through. So Frelick will actually gain a good few seconds on him there. And I think it's worked out pretty well for the TOP esports car as Loic Mounier comes out behind Fletcher now, who's also yet to stop for the second time.
Yeah, absolutely crucial that Frelick cleared Fletcher there, because that's going to be an important buffer between himself and Mounier. He's absolutely made hay on that outlap. Fantastic driving. We also see fastest lap of the race set by Dylan Fisher, 1:25.6, as he still trying to get into 14th position here. So yeah, putting a lot of pressure on that Red Archer in front of him. So that's exactly what he needs to do. Tying, of course, on that alternate strategy on the mediums. He's the only one sort of on the Maggio strategy at the moment, isn't he? Or the one that Maggio was doing. So that's why he's 12.6 seconds off the lead. But we now, yeah, Frelick continuing to pump in those purple sectors, fastest of anybody in the field, 31.6 in the first sectors. That's 0.3 quicker than what Grankvist is doing in the overall lead. And now Vac has decided he's had enough from third, and he wants to see if he can hang on to the coattails of Mounier.
Yeah, Matthew Williams now right on the back of Grankvist for the lead. We barely mentioned him today, but my goodness, he's been strong. He's always a dark horse in these. He's very much like, I mean, we were talking about Riot Kilk earlier, picking up those points and just doing it really quietly. Matthew Williams does exactly the same thing. He's had podiums in the past, but they've been so uneventful that there's not really much to say about them. He's just been good. But anyway, Williams on the back of Jan Grankvist. It is for the lead briefly, although I think Simon Frelick will probably take over when this is all said and done. Sparks flying as they go through turn 8, the car bottoming out as it goes through those 4 apexes. It's interesting that... Oh,
had a bit of rain that I see. Oh, it is raining. I didn't expect this. Here we go. Now this has turned the race completely on its head, because if you droplets of rain, will it stay or will that become something much more serious as Frelick has set the fastest lap of the race, 124.6, snatching it away from Dylan Fisher. But I'm sure Fisher's got bigger problems to worry about down there in that battle for 13th position there. But now Matthew Williams, difficult decision here as the rain intensifies.
My goodness, that wasn't even on my radar for today. So we are now going to have a weather-affected race. And that means, of course, the drivers who have not yet stopped might well want to stay out just a little bit longer to see if they can go onto those intermediate tyres. The trouble is, the longer they stay out, if they do have to pit for another set of slicks, they would have lost out even more than they would already have done. We've seen that the undercut's effective here, but Grankvist and Williams are staying out for another lap. I have to wonder if they think it's going to get wet enough for intermediate. Sergio Fletcher is in the pits now as well. I'd be interested to see what he does. I'd really like to see this stop, actually, because this could be crucial. I think he's pulling out of his box on a new set of mediums, so I don't think that Fletcher has gone... Yeah, he's not going to go into inters in this stop. Maybe he thinks that it's going to dry up again. It's just going to be a quick shower, but if he does have to
on the
pit
radar,
again,
Caitlin, is rain ending in 4 minutes. Then, so they can survive this. Then that should be all the rain that there is to offer. So this has really caught out a lot of drivers, I think.
wow. Well, here's Matthew Williams right on the tail of Jan Grankvist once again. DRS wide open. He gets closer and closer, but not close enough into the corner. And now we wait and see if either of these drivers will pit. They have such a tricky decision to make at this point in time. Jarl Tyen as well. To be honest, Tyen will probably be hoping it rains a bit heavier, because that would save him, not necessarily another stop, but it would save him from dropping further back. And of course, of course it would save him a good few positions if everyone did need to pit for inters and he was able to go onto them as a scheduled pit stop. That would work out very, very well for Jarl Tyen indeed. Carlos Martin running in 8th position. Pascal Pollentz there challenging Riot Kilk for P15. Goes through as well.
That Martins just picked off Stevens as well, yeah, because Stevens didn't have a great final sector there, but overtook with the DRS then. As you see, Polenz has got that sole remaining edge into the final points-paying position, but he's got Kilk and Fletcher to deal with, which is not an enviable position whatsoever. So this is a replay of what we just saw then, and Stevens, his miserable day, being compounded by a bit of rain and very, very comfortable overtake quite early on down the straight by Carlos Martin then.
Well, it's getting tense. If it wasn't already, it is getting very tense here at Istanbul Park. We're going to keep an eye on the weather as well as the track. On race view, we've still got an ambient temperature 17 degrees Celsius, track temperature 40 degrees Celsius, weather light rain. So into the pits now come the leaders, Grankvist and Williams. What will they do? They're on hard tyres as it stands. They get it slowed down to 60 miles per hour, 80 kilometers per hour, there or thereabouts. They stop in their box, and what color tires are we going to see? Of course, the intermediates are green, and those are the medium tires, yellow for Matthew Williams and for Jan Grankvist, so it's an equal strategy for both of them. Shimon Frelich goes through, Loic Mounier goes through. Now where's Matthew Williams? That's who I'm more interested in. As you can see, it's getting slippery now as Grankvist exits the pits. There is Williams, and Williams, he's ahead of Walk, but still behind Jan Grankvist, was not quite able to take advantage. Now, one thing to say is that mediums are probably better in the wet conditions than the hard tyres. Of course, if it gets properly wet, they're both as bad as each other. But in these conditions where it's just a little bit wet, having a nice warm set of mediums on the car might well help you out, because there's just a little bit more grip and they get up to temperature just that little bit faster. So I would want to put on the mediums, even if you don't think it's going to go to intermediate weather here, Ed.
Yeah, we've got 1 more minute of rain according to the radar, so let's see, because there's not too much longer left in the race here. This is an absolutely critical decision. Looks like nobody has blinked and gone for the inters here, so everybody's putting full trust in the weather radar and hoping that the rain goes away and comes to play another day then, on a more strategically convenient day, certainly. But Tyen here, is he going to gamble? He's sort of just stuck on the same strategy as everyone else. He's got to just try and extend this medium stint and pit for softs at the end, surely.
He does indeed. 15 laps to go in this one. The rain we expect to stop any minute now, but you're never sure. And Yartine will want it to continue and continue. Here's Sergio Fletcher. Just in the YouTube chat, Typhon says in Sergio Fletcher, I believe, and you have every reason to, because he's just picked off Pascal Pollens for 14th position. The yellow flag out there, and as it keeps raining, that's very nerve-wracking. Dylan Fisher is in the pits now with 15 laps to go. I didn't see who was dropping down the order. See, Fisher is, but then again, he is in the pits.
Might have been Mike Quinn.
Well, it's Mike Quinn. Here we go. Into turn 8 he goes. And is he going to catch a damp patch? Is he going to lose control? He goes over the curb, and there won't be any grip out there. And wallop into the wall he goes. And that will be day done for Mike Quint. Only 23 cars will remain now. Unfortunate stuff, and the first real accident retiree we've seen. There of course have been drivers who have picked up some mild damage and then retired later on, but that's the first real gunt that's taken a driver out of the race. And as it continues to rain, that might be a prevalent issue where drivers really have to find the grip out there and not put their wheels wide and find the curb like that, otherwise there will be no control. And Tyan in the pits.
Oh, this is crucial then, because I think Tyan is the first one realistically that could gamble on the Inters here, but it's a big gamble. If he puts them on immediately the sun comes out, this is going to be painful. Matthew Williams, meanwhile, setting purple sectors here, a tenth quicker than Grankvist, half a second in front of him, so there's a real battle for that final spot on the podium, and Tyan intends to get right into the thick of it.
Tyan medium tyres, as expected. Now, I was a little bit confused there. Okay, so Tom Stevens also into the pits. That is also pretty well expected. I'm a little bit confused here about Shimon Frelick, because as he went past, it looked like he was on soft tyres, as in the full soft tyres. But it's not, it's hards. I was going to say, I wasn't sure whether that was true or whether it was just the wheel rims of the car. But even that doesn't make sense, because the wheel rims don't look particularly red, so I guess I'm just seeing things. But there you go.
It's the psychedelic rims on the TOP that confused you, Caitlin.
Potentially, yeah, potentially. But he continues to lead on those hard tyres. Like Mounier is second, I believe, also on hards, although it's getting a bit harder to pick out who's on what. Jan Grankvist third, there we go. So Grankvist, the top driver on mediums, and I tell you what, he's only just, and there he goes. Grankvist up the inside of Mounier, and he goes through into second position. Now, if he can push quickly, and if he can catch up to Frelick before the medium tyres start to reach that the end of their operating window, Grankvist could have a really good chance of taking the lead here, and I think at this rate he probably will, Ed.
Yeah, this is what he's been threatening to do all day, isn't it? As we see Tyan up the inside of Hygo Poom on his fresh set of mediums here. But yeah, Grankvist lighting up the timing screen and showing the qualities that we saw all of last season and that we saw 2 weeks ago in Australia here. And Simon Frelick, of course, in his second race as a full-time driver, is going to have to fight to hold on to the lead here with just 15 laps or so remain. Less than that, actually, isn't it? It's about 12 or 13 laps. So it's going to be quite the tough ask here with the rain falling down for good measure and everybody sticking out on the dry tyres. Nobody thinks the rain's going to get heavy enough to make it worth going for the Inters here. So I'm surprised on the back markers of a gamble, to be honest. But I guess maybe the rain just evaporates because the track temperature is still 40 degrees. So the moment it hits the surface, it's disappearing.
And Grankvist has caught Frelick. He's within 0.4 of a second of him. We're watching the action. He's going to pass him on the straight. Jan Grankvist on the softer tyres with the DRS goes through and leads the race for the first time today. First time genuinely, of course, because he did briefly lead it during the pit window. But what a drive from Jan Grankvist. And if he wins this race, he can put that down to leaving that last pit stop a little bit later and going onto those medium tyres when it mattered. Yartine up into 7th place. He can still bag a good result here. But yes, Grankvist, I think, has played this perfectly. And with 12 laps to go, he has taken the lead, Ed.
Yeah, and also he's really good in mixed conditions, isn't he, Jan Grankvist? Remember Hockenheim last season where he made that double move on Panzer and Fischer. To make not necessarily the right strategy calls in that race because it was difficult to do so because nobody knew what on earth was going to happen lap to lap at parts of that race. But whenever the rain comes out, Grankvist tends, with the exception of Interlagos last season, where he deliberately started from the back of the grid and made it as hard as possible for himself. He always seems to thrive in this sort of scenario, and he's continuing to do so. Purple first sector, 6/10 quicker than Frelick as he attempts to pull the gap he needs to break DRS here. But yeah, Matthew Williams now, he fancies getting on the podium for the first time since Suzuka last season. This is important for Adonis because Williams has broken well and truly clear of Thomas Vack, and he wants to fight with Frelick and Moynier here. So can the young Englishman get onto the podium for the first time for Adonis as Moynier up the inside back into second position past Simon Frelick. He's not going to wait around for Matthew Williams to catch him. He's going to take the initiative.
And Frelick loses 2 places in 2 laps in exactly the same place. Has he used up his push to pass or something like that? Or is this just a case of the hard tyres not being the tyre to be on in these conditions at this point in the race? If he is going to come back through, it'll be right towards the end of the race when the medium tyres potentially drop off the cliff. Williams taking a little look. Frelick gives it a little jink just to say, oh no you don't you dare. And Matthew Williams stays behind the TOP Esports car as it stands. Out through this double left-hander here. That's a deceptively difficult corner as well, as it's downhill as you crest those corners, and the car wants to break away and you're trying to accelerate and turn at the same time. So my goodness, you have to be on your toes through there, and it's hard enough in an FS2 car, so I can't imagine doing it in a Super League car in wet conditions. We're now on board with Matthew Williams. Can he become the 3rd driver in 3 laps to pass Shimon Frelick on this next straight? He will get the DRS. He's got the softer, fresher tyres, and I expect that Frelick, I mean, he has the advantage of also having DRS, but this looks like a pretty straightforward move here. Matthew Williams does go to the inside. Frelick doesn't bother to move over to the left, and Williams does go through now into a provisional podium place, Ed.
Yeah, 5-lap tyre delta in favour of Matthew Williams there, and that really makes all the difference. You can tell Simon Frelick maybe a bit of his inexperience in terms of time management creeping in as well, but he's done as good a job as he can to lead the race for as long as he did there, as Milnek loses that 10th position to Robin Pansar. So HRT and Adonis, the 2 orange cars, squabbling away, but it's the orange and green car that misses out now as Pansar continues his tidy charge up the order to get into the lower reaches of the top 10. Next target, Heiko Poom, as Pansar sets his personal best lap of the race, which is 1:25.1, about 9/10 quicker than Heiko, who's 2 seconds up the road from him with 10 laps to go, as Pascal Polenz pits right at the end of the race. And we are seeing the rain has officially stopped now on the weather radar. It did say a couple of minutes ago that it had stopped in reality, and now I think R-Factor 2 is caught up here. So we should be looking at a dry finish because none of the rain has stayed on the circuit.
Yeah, it's effectively real weather, but with a slight delay that we use here in GPVWC. So we get the weather data from the track, and it used to be an hour delay. I'm not sure it is anymore, but basically that's the weather you get in game in due time. Meanwhile, Wopke Hoekstra in the pits from 19th position for his last pit stop. Doesn't look like Green Stripes are going to come away from this with any points, but props to them for continuing on nonetheless, because we don't always see that. It's, way too many times in Super League we've seen drivers and teams retiring the car just to save engines, and I think that goes against the spirit of the race. But anyway, Matthew Williams now is lining up Loic Mounier. They've both dropped back from Jan Grankvist, who is running away with it now, 3 seconds out in front, heading for what would be his 2nd victory in a row. And Mounier and Williams are the main fight now for 2nd and 3rd position. Frelick trying to hang on to their coattails. That could be very important come the end of the race, when Frelick should be at his most advantageous. But yeah, the weather has indeed stopped, and it's intriguing to me that nobody ended up going for the intermediate tyres. Usually you see at least a couple of drivers, even those maybe further back outside of the top 20, doing something a little bit different just in case. But I guess they've all seen the weather radar. They've all seen that the rain wasn't going to last, and as a result of that, they were able to pit for slick tyres, or indeed not pit at all if they didn't need to. Matthew Williams once again in DRS range, but this time it's off Loic Mounier in 2nd position, gets closer to him. Frelick still has the DRS from Williams' Adonis Engineering car as well. Tomasz Vox doing a great job in P5. This would be Road to Formula's second top 5 finish in a row, of course, after Alex Laho got them a podium in Australia. Carlos Martin P6. I said to look out for him today. He's still doing pretty well, up 3 positions from his starting position. Look at that, Robin Panther up 10. Sergio Fletcher up 18 from the very back of the grid. Could there still be some more in Sergio Fletcher's account? Maybe a top... would it be too much to say top 10? Maybe so, but this would still be a great drive from the Valet Esports man. And Matthew Williams, we continue to watch, is set for what will be, I think, his 3rd podium in Super League, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. Brazil 21, Japan last season, and this will be the 3rd one. Yeah. If he can do it, of course, which is never a guarantee with Simon Frelick still keeping him pretty honest. But yeah, Moynier, he's looking at his 1st, of course, so he's going to really fight, because having started on pole position, he's going to feel a little bit annoyed that Grangfist just sort of breezed past everyone in this final stint. I think even Jan will probably admit he felt surprised that it was so easy in the end. And in terms of the team's championship, it is raining, yeah, but we expect this not to be too heavy a shower unless, because I think there's only 8 laps left in the race, so I don't think anybody's going to come in unless you're near the very back, like, say, Justin van der Smissen or Hoekstra might gamble, but I think everyone else knows you just lose too much time with the pit stop, and you just got to stay out there and keep it on the island. But yeah, on a day where THR, here comes Stevens, looking to get past Fletcher back into the top 12, but it's sort of damage limitation, isn't it, for THR, where Stevens, you don't want to say lost his head, but certainly lost control of his car, that's for sure. And it's really cost THR that tangle with Brewer, because both of them would have been right up there in the top 6, and now instead we've got Tyen, who's done all right in the top 7, but the strategy hasn't really played in his favor with that extra stop, has it, with the free stopper? They really need Stevens there to help him out.
Well, we haven't seen a replay of Stevens' incident with Brewer, so I'm not sure whose fault that original tangle was. There's Pavel Andrzejewski running in 20th position, just on the back of Istvan Singel. But of course, the stewards will have a look at that. I was rather distracted by Jarl Tyen having a big twitch at the same time, but whatever the case, it has cost Tom Stevens dearly. The driver who was 2nd last time out will finish about 10 places lower than that by the look of it. This weather could throw an extra spanner in the works though, because we've seen the wetter it gets, the harder it is to keep it on the island. And it's all well and good saying, oh, they'd lose too much if you pitted or whatever. They'd lose even more if they crashed. So you've got to keep it on the island and keep it on that dry line, so long as there is a dry line to drive on, of course. Anyway, 6 laps remaining, 7 laps including the one we're on, Ed.
Yeah, and the good news for drivers like Polenz, like Andrzejewski we're looking at the moment, who I think's recovered really well from that spin earlier. He had it turn 3. Having pit for the soft tyres, they'll have the easiest job when it comes to tyre temperature. If the track starts to cool down, it's already gone from 4 degrees down to 39 degrees, so this seems like it might potentially be slightly more vicious, this last shower, than the first one, but we'll have to wait and see. Polenz has set 1:25.0, his personal best lap of the race. I think Tyen is still the fastest man on track, though, at the moment, in 7th position. But of course, Lalu's pitting not too long ago, did he? No, I definitely think actually Tyen has got the fresher tyres, because he's only been on them 8 laps, whereas Lalu's been on them about 18 laps, I think. So yeah, definitely looking like Tyen should comfortably start to pull away and maybe even challenge Martin for 6th here as we cut back to Williams using the DRS to inch closer. He's going to make a dive into 12. No, he thinks better of that, but Loic Moynier slides out, and up the inside goes Matthew Williams into 2nd position, but Moynier pushes him wide, and he's going to try and hang around the outside into the final corner. Side by side they go. Frelick licks his lips in anticipation because he knows what might be coming here next as they go sideways into turn 1, and is Williams going to break up the inside? Just about slots his way through into 2nd position as they all squirm for traction.
Awesome stuff. I'm amazed they didn't lock wheels there. They were so close. And up the inside once again, Mounier took a look, but Williams held his line. Meanwhile, Tom Stevens has also passed Maciej Winnick, and so has Sergio Fletcher, actually. He's followed him through. Fletcher was already in 12th place, wasn't he? So I'm a little confused by what's happened further back. But anyway, Szymon Frelick here in 4th position, like you said, licking his lips in case something happens up ahead of him, and the race may well be coming back to him now. The likes of Williams, Meunier and Frelick have never won a GPWC Super League race before. Grankvist, of course, has won quite a few last year, and then of course won this year already. Tomasz Vok in 5th place has a race win, as do Martin and Tyan in 6th and 7th. We're on board with Szymon Frelick now as we head down the DRS straight. He's got the rear wing open. DRS enabled until the track gets too wet, and then it might be disabled. And here's the move for second. Loic Meunier, oh, he's locked up, and he goes into the side of Williams, forces him off the line, and he does get the move. So Meunier does go through. Big twitch from Frelick behind. That was a little bit forceful, basically a touring car style move there from Loic Meunier. I don't think he intended to hit Williams, but whatever the case, Robin's racing sometimes, and through he goes. Now on the exit, Frelick tries to line them up. Wide goes Williams. Frelick might get 3rd here. He does. Frelick goes through to 3rd. Now what can he do about Loic Meunier for 2nd position? Frenetic racing in the last 5 laps here in Turkey.
Yeah, Matthew Williams very unhappy about that because he feels Loic Meunier just punted him out of the way there. It was aggressive for me from Loic, but for me that was I think I agree more on your side, Caitlin, that it was just a good, clean racing, but I can see exactly why Matthew Williams is not a happy bunny at the wheel of that Adonis then. But yeah, Szymon Frelick very opportune. As you saw through 13, he slipped because he was just trying not to hit the back of Williams, I think, and then Williams sort of making contact with Loic enabled Frelick to take advantage there. So we see a brief yellow flag somewhere else out there on track. Not sure quite what happened, but yeah, it's action everywhere you look, already, and that is fantastic to see. I think Polenz is right behind Rate Kilk. But they're about 10 seconds off of the final points paying position, and now Frelick is going to have another go, this time at getting back into 2nd position. He wants revenge on Loic Meunier. Meunier's not going to let him have it. He does a ring of death round the outside, almost slides into him, does slide into Szymon Frelick, and they're free wide at the final corner. That's never going to work. Williams holds his nerve round the outside of Szymon Frelick. He goes back onto the podium then. 4 more laps to go, including this one, and it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. Immediately Williams tries to go up the inside into turn 1 and has to back out, and now Frelick is going to have a run into turn 3.
I never thought I'd see cars going 3 wide into that final corner. Of course that wasn't going to work. And again, I'm amazed they're all still pointing in the right direction. This is allowing Grankvist to get massively away. He's 8 seconds in front now. He's got this so long as he keeps it on the island. Meanwhile, there was a yellow flag out there, as you said. The track is drying. We now have... well, there's a nice sunny icon showing on my race view, so the rain has stopped. But then again, of course, the track will still be a little bit damp in places. They're just lucky that the track temperature is so high. It means that it will dry quite quickly. So towards the end of another lap we go. There will be another dose of DRS coming into play now for the likes of Williams and Frelick, but crucially not for Meunier, who will have to defend completely au natural. Here we go. DRS open for Matthew Williams. Once again, lines up Loic Meunier, who he's nearly come together with a few times already. Round the outside, Meunier locks up. They do come together. They do tangle. And Szymon Frelick's up the inside. And through goes Williams. So Williams is 2nd, Meunier is 3rd, Frelick is 4th. And I mean, I've said this twice already, but it's a miracle that no one's pointing backwards. Frelick up the inside. This is for 3rd position. And I tell you what, that was the same mistake that Meunier had made a couple of laps ago, just getting on the slightly less grippy bit on the inside of the corner, locking up the rear wheels and sliding sideways into Williams. I guess he thought he'd got away with it before, so he can do it again. But that so nearly ended in tears there. That's amazing.
Yeah, that felt almost to me like a rerun of the Brewer-Stevens crash, but luckily they didn't quite spin around completely when they tangled there. They just both got off the throttle and were very, very sensible. So cooler heads definitely prevailing, and Thomas Vack probably feeling a bit disappointed there because he thought he might have a chance of a podium, but they were losing like a 1.5 seconds per lap when they've been fighting to Thomas Vack. So Vack definitely enjoying the fact that they're squabbling, but hoping they will do it again in these last couple of laps then. But yeah, Szymon Frelick not quite able to slip his way back through, but luckily for Matthew Williams, he's had to make that move twice now, hasn't he? And Meunier's certainly not made it easy, but the rear end, as you say, Caitlin, was just misbehaving on that spark. Worked super well in qualifying and allowed him to get the turn in, but in this late phase, it's starting to really bite him on those hard tyres.
3 laps to go, including the one that, well, 2 laps to go, sorry, including the one that Jan Granqvist has just started. He looks set to win by nearly 10 seconds, maybe even 10 seconds. Tom Stevens is getting back into the top 10 now, passing Hygo Poom, and there he goes up the inside. So Stevens gets it done, and it looks as if we will have both of the THRs in the top 10, despite their torrid qualifying position. And of course, that incident for Stevens and Brewer earlier on. Now we're watching Jarl Tyen on the back of Carlos Martin. You can see other cars going up the hill in the background as these cars descend the hill. And there's really not that much time left for something to change. It's got to be soon, pretty much now or never for Jarl Tyen. And this is a much more straightforward battle here because they don't have the complication of double DRS. Mounier getting the slipstream from Williams as Frelick gets the slipstream from him, for example. Through turn 8 go Carlos Martin and Jarl Tyen, and I think they'll be pretty happy that the rain's cleared off for the time being, because that will make this particular battle a little bit less treacherous than it already is, Ed.
Yep, I'm just slightly keeping my eyes on the sector times of Mounier and Williams, seeing if battle resumes again. But yeah, Tyen has got one more lap to try and pass Carlos Martin. Martin on the older tyres, but not quite enough overlap into turn 12 then. So yeah, Tyen is running out of time in this battle for 6th, and I think Martin knows that he's just got to try and hold on if he can. But the TOP, the rear tyres, must be starting to struggle as Tyen absolutely hangs it out. Brilliant stuff from the Norwegian then as they start the final lap of the race.
Final lap now for this battle for 6th, and of course the battle for 2nd, Williams, Mounier and Frelick, and Wok now joining in, nearly joining in. And then of course final lap for Jan Granqvist out in front. Jarl Tyen still trying to line up Carlos Martin, and it looks as if Williams has got enough of a gap now on Loic Mounier. I don't think he has to worry about him too much on this particular lap. Mounier still has to worry about Frelick and the like, but that's the battle for the podium. And there was a change of position further back. Stevens has got Lalu, so Stevens is up into 9th position now on this last lap, passing Jukka-Pekka Lalu. We're going to see a replay now, and this is Stevens on Lalu, and he takes a look to the outside of turn 4. That's a bold one. Up the inside, little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and he's on the outside again. Oh, don't spin around. We know that he doesn't, because of course he got the move done. But that was, well, a bit of a bold way to do it. And there's Williams on the last lap, round the outside of Loic Mounier, who fends him off. And Mounier's taken 2nd there, and Jan Granqvist wins for the 2nd time in a row. Great stuff for Jan Granqvist. He is well deserving of that number 1. Loic Mounier will just come home 2nd, right as I said that Williams would be in the clear, so my apologies. Great stuff on the last lap. We're going to see a replay of it as he lines him up going down the straight, dumps the push to pass, will absolutely drain the battery, goes to the outside, and he does it. Loic Mounier gets the move done, and they come together again. They came together on the last lap in Turkey. And Loic Mounier will be 2nd, Williams will be 3rd, then Shimon Frelick, who is 4th. And we'll see the full finishing order in just a few moments' time. Martin held off Jarl Tyen just about, and Lalu got back past Stevens by the look of it. Lalu back up into 9th place. We'll have to see how that happened as well. Right, Kilk's just passed Maciej Winnick there at the end. I think Winnick, well, something's happened to Winnick because he's dropped back.
Stevens maybe run out of fuel because it was very close as they crossed the line.
Did he?
That's potentially what's happened. But yeah, I love that from Loic Mounier because, as he said, he was clearly waiting for that last opportunity so Williams couldn't fight back. They wouldn't have a chance to reply on another lap because the race was over. But the moment he got track position, he immediately cut to the inside ultra aggressively to defend that 2nd position. And that's Loic Mounier's first podium there. So very impressive drive. He's, after missing in Australia, he really made a statement today. But nonetheless,
here we go.
It's Williams as well.
Jan Granqvist has made it 2 wins from 2. He wins here in Turkey. Then it's Loic Mounier 2nd in his first podium finish. Great job from Loic there. Matthew Williams is 3rd. Then it's Shimon Frelick, Tomasz Vok, Carlos Martin and Jarl Tyen. Robin Panzer, Jukka-Pekka Lalu, who passed Tom Stevens on the last lap as Jan Granqvist does some victory spins down the straight. Tom Stevens, of course, 10th position. He will lose that second place in the championship. Hygo Poom is P11. Then it's Sergio Fletcher from the very back of the grid. Good stuff from Sergio. Maciej Winnick is 13th. Then it's Dylan Fisher, Jeffrey Fournier, and Pascal Pollens, who will claim the last point despite the slightly weird... No, Fournier claimed the last point despite the weird-looking numbering system there. Then Pollens, Kilk, Royal, Andrzejewski, and Gut were the first drivers to miss out on those points. Wopke Hoekstra was 21st, and it's Istvang Singel, Justin van der Smissen, and then of course the DNFs. Mike Quint crashed out, Daniel Brewer came together with Tom Stevens, Alex Lahoe I think disconnected, I don't know what... No, he had a spin, didn't he? Alessandro Maggio disconnected from the lead. What could he have done? We will never know, unfortunately. Chris Shepherd retired to the pit lane. Mark Schluter lost his front wing on the first lap and later retired. And Matt Richards also had a disconnection. So that is the all of the racing action done for today, but plenty still to unpack. We will have some interviews for you coming up shortly, and we'll try to unpack some of the other things that happened in that as well. So the first driver that we're going to talk to is, of course, our race winner, Jan Grankvist. Hello, Jan.
Hello there.
So 2 out of 2, what a way to start the season, and what a way to defend your championship victory from the last season. How are you feeling?
I'm knackered.
Well, it didn't
I'm
look
very
easy out
tired.
there.
No, it wasn't. There was very impressive pace set by our rivals in qualifying, and that obviously set a few hairs raised from my side, but I was still confident with our race pace, and I mean I'm quite proud of this result again.
Now, I think you won that race by leaving it out a little bit later and going on to the medium tyres. I think that was the decision that got you the victory, especially when the rain started to come down. Is that a fair assessment?
I think, yeah, partially. I'd say we definitely had an advantage also on tyre where probably setup-wise some very big differences I noticed when I was following other people. Like Shimon and Loic, they seem to be very strong elsewhere. Meanwhile, there were some corners where I just caught them up by more than a tenth or two even, which is a lot for one corner. So there's definitely a lot of differences in how we set up our cars, and it showed in quali, and then it showed in the race just how much I think each party is practiced for, well, race versus qualifying.
Yeah, for sure. Now, unfortunately for me in the FS2 race, we didn't get any rain, but you guys did. Did you know it wasn't going to last, or was it a bit of a panic that, oh no, we might have to switch to Inters soon?
There was a little bit of that. I knew we still had just a little bit life left on the hards, but obviously the pit window was constantly open the whole duration as it was raining, so it was kind of a, well, if it keeps raining this little, then we're just going to stick to our strategy and not risk obviously dropping off too much from the others so that we don't get undercut by more than 10 seconds. So it was just a calm, calculated just strategy that we followed all the way to the end.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, congratulations, Jan. I'm going to hand over to my co-commentator and usual interviewer, Ed Hunter. Ed, do you have any more questions for our race winner, Jan?
I do. And by the way, best of luck, Caitlin, in that search for Venus Motorsport's elusive first FS2 points, because I'm sure everyone's
rain.
You on. Including me, yes. Yeah, it happened in Singapore last season, so I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, as that happened, Charlotte Mennick's pretty good in the rain as well. But anyway, thanks, Dan. It's not my team. Why am I talking about it? Let's talk about your race then. So, obviously, there was a little bit of a heart and mouth moment. Well, I think the whole race you could argue is a heart and mouth moment. But after the first set of stops, you got undercut by THR, and you had Matthew Williams breathing down your neck. Did you ever think Matthew was going to try anything? And were you confident that THR, because Stevens ended up tripping over Dan Brewer, and Tyne's strategy just left him with just too much ground to make up on the free stopper. So it seems really you kept your head while your main rivals sort of ended up outfoxing themselves, essentially.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of long question, so I'll try and answer all of it. I think Matthew. Well, talking about Matthew, I want to say a big congrats to him for getting the podium, and well, I could say from my part, I was fairly certain that he wouldn't try anything rash, because, well, Adonis Super Venturi are both practicing on the same server, so we obviously both share some info about strategies and whatnot. So Matthew Williams was just following my strategy all throughout the race, and I think that's basically the best strategy that we found from our practice all throughout since Melbourne. Yeah, I was fairly confident with that. And then, what were the other questions?
Being undercut by THR. I think you said you weren't worried about that. So.
Right, yeah, that one was. It wasn't really in the plan to stay out for so long, but the pace wasn't exactly there for us on the soft stint. Surprisingly, we were aiming to go a lot faster and, well, hit a lap earlier. But since we just had so much tire life left, I decided I'd dump some push to pass and still try and hang out for one more lap, and it'll eventually pay out with just one lap fresher tires for the next stint. So yeah, that was the plan. And with THR undercutting us, I wasn't too worried when I saw that they were both on mediums. I knew that as soon as they pitted, I'd easily still catch up to the train ahead and use the DRS to my advantage. And well, I used the DRS to my advantage.
You certainly did. So yeah, 2 wins from 2. Next up, we got Japan, where you also won last season in the middle of that amazing sort of 3 in a row hot streak. I know you said early you were saying considering not doing the full season, but surely after how strongly things have started, would it be fair to suggest that some of your mind may start to change now?
Well, it's looking pretty good, and I'm really not in that much of a time constraint as I thought previously. So
yeah, you can do well enough that you can miss the last couple of races and be champion. Is that the plan?
Well, we'll see about that. But well, things are definitely looking pretty good at the moment. So I won't comment too much more on it. Yeah, because it's a long season still ahead. And before I go, I also almost forgot. I want to also extend a big congrats to Loic. We're getting P2 there as well, I saw. So yeah, well done from him, and it's definitely probably a nice result after, well, not even being able to race Australia.
Late. You should watch the battle, it was really exciting.
Oh, really?
But yeah, you of course didn't see any of it other than on the timing screen while you were driving up front.
Yeah, I did see them swap a few times.
Yeah, it got very physical, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Him and Matthew Williams, and indeed Simon as well. He got involved.
Okay, yeah, I won't comment too much more on that then yet. But yeah, big congrats to all of them, and yeah, good race.
And let's not forget, congrats to you, Jan. And if you win in Japan, can we rename it Janpan?
Oh, well,
I apologize.
Yeah, you should go and rewrite some of those jokes of yours.
I don't write them, that's the problem.
Oh, God.
Right, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming to talk to us, Jan. And yeah, we'll see you next time out. And enjoy the champagne once again, because you've certainly earned it today.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you.
So, 7th career victory for Jan Grankvist. But first career podium for Loic Moynier, as he rightly pointed out at the end. So let's drag Loic in and hear what he has to say about his race. So, Spark Racing's very own Loic Moynier joins us in the commentary box now. So, Loic, it was a fantastic qualifying lap to put you on a pole position for the first time. And then the race was a real battle, ultimately ending with you just snatching second from Matthew Williams. Probably the last opportunity after a pretty ferocious battle between you, him, and Simon Frelich. You look like you had a lot of fun out there. I could tell you were driving pretty aggressively and not leaving a whole lot on the line. Like, it looked very fun from the outside. How did it feel from the inside of the cockpit?
It was really great as well. It was fun to have some hard racing with people. I need to work on my braking settings because I would use the rear a few times. That's not just for style points. That's just generally really skill issue. Car was other than that, the car was absolutely superb. I am dedicating this pole position to my friends, the work in the winter was really hard, and it's great to see it pay off that way. And the podium will go to my father. I wish I would have won, but the podium is what it is. You will be there with me, Pops. You're my best friend. I love you. It's really amazing to have you. Sometimes every time I race, he's there giving a little thumbs up. So yeah, I think I'm very grateful for him to have introduced me to this sport and for me to have the opportunity to have so much fun out there on days like this.
Yeah, that's really lovely to hear. And so obviously, I know it wasn't quite the win, but still, obviously, without winning, this is the next best thing that could have happened, I guess. So certainly, like you say, the car felt good. In terms of, you got undercut at the first pair of slots by not just Maggio, who obviously got disconnected later on, but also by Simon. And do you think if you'd been able to keep track position on Simon, that the race would have turned out differently? Or when he got past you, did you? I think he went by with DRS before the pit stop. Sorry if I remember correctly. A lot happened. Sorry, in this race. Did you think maybe you could have defended a bit harder, or did you think that the smarter play was to let Simon set the pace and sort of bide your time behind him?
No, for me the most important was really to stay with this train at the start, so you don't get swallowed up in the consequences. So in the first stint, you generally don't fight too hard. You try to stick with the lead group, and then you race harder later on. It's kind of like when you do what you do with endurance races. If you saw the old teams we would race with back then, it's the start. After lap 1, you just take it slow and let the strategy work out and push when you have to, especially at the end.
It's funny, I remember when you're doing the first stints in endurance racing, you would just battle with everybody and try and get to the lead as soon as possible. So maybe my memory's not as...
it must be the maturity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we all are, aren't we? But you wouldn't know from my commentary, but yeah, I'm an older man now. But anyway, let's talk about those last 10, 15 laps or so with Matthew Williams and Simon, because it was very back and forth. Everyone trying to break DRS from one another, nobody quite able to do so. There are a couple of times where it got a bit aggressive and physical. You locked wheels with Matthew at one point. Both of you were very sensible, avoided spinning out. You all three of you went free wide at the final corner at one moment, which was pretty insane. At one point, Matthew swerved around after the first couple of corners when I think there's contact between you and him, and Simon was able to slip through. It was very, very light contact, but Matthew, I don't think... He didn't seem happy about it in the moment. We'll see maybe if he wants to interview us afterwards, but it luckily didn't turn into acrimony. We saw a couple of other battles in the race that did. But let's hope Tom Stevens doesn't hear that. But anyway, yeah. But it looked like, as you said, you had a lot of fun from your point of view. But it was just about I said in commentary, just about the right side of aggression without going too overboard. What's your take?
My take was the plan was I would see that he would just stay behind me for most of the laps and under my DRS when his mediums was supposed to be better. So I thought the plan was for me to lead the DRS train until we call up to Jan when his tires get old, because it's mediums, they're supposed to wear faster than mine. But at some point he just went for it, and with one single shot, I'm gonna do that sentence again. With the final 3 corners, almost side by side, the time we lost was basically game over for the win. So after that, we would just be all out for P2. So that's when I could race a bit harder and have maybe a bit more fun than just hot lapping.
Yeah, when the win was off the table, the gloves came off. I see. So,
yeah.
Well, anyway,
Who will be the fastest loser?
Well, you put in a fantastic show for us today. Like 2 weeks' time, Suzuka Japan is next up. Your championships are well and truly underway. I know Australia was bitterly disappointing for you, but this brings you into real good form of momentum going into Japan, surely. So you've got to be excited going forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a great track. I didn't race it in years, so I can't wait to come back in there. And yeah, well, Melbourne was just my internet. The ISP decided to do maintenance on race day, and they didn't plug my internet back, which is a shame.
Ah,
But other than that, I think now they fixed their little mishap, and I can go hunt. Let's go
okay.
to the-
I was going to make a joke about French workmen there, but I worried that might come across a bit slightly xenophobic, so I'm not going to make it. But anyway, well done on them for finally fixing the internet, and well done you, like, for taking advantage of it. It was a pleasure to watch, and as always, it is just absolute balls to the wall action when you're at the wheel, like. So I can't wait till Japan, and congrats on the first podium. And all the best to Pepper Moynier as well.
Yes, thank you very much, guys.
All right, so as Luke Moynier celebrates his first podium, let's talk to some of the drivers that had a little bit less fortune in the race, but nonetheless put in some good performances. Let's first go to Alessandro Maggio. So, Alessandro, welcome back to the commentary box. I know it's another race where it promised a lot, and this time, through no fault of your own, it must be said, it slipped out of your hands. I've commentated on you in this situation before. I know it's so disappointing, but obviously, from your point of view, you were doing everything right in terms of you had the undercut on the mediums. You were pulling the gap. It was just slightly starting to come down, but not at an alarming rate. And then it all came to a screeching halt for you. We just talked to Loic about some of his internet issues in Australia, and it seems sadly it was your turn to have them today. But obviously, you only got to do half a race, but you got to say it was a strong half of a race.
Yeah, I mean, if having internet issues means that the next race I'm gonna finish P2, then I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, I mean.
Well, last time I commentated on you at
much.
Suzuki, you won, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not gonna win Super League, not this season at least.
Not
It's
with that
my-
attitude.
Fair enough. Okay. Right. I mean, I wasn't expecting much from Turkey because it's one of my worst tracks, and honestly, I knew that the race was gonna be pretty painful for me, so I just hoped to finish anywhere. Didn't matter when, where. Just I wanted to finish. I placed myself in a good spot, I have to say, throughout the race. I wasn't expecting to be that far up with the strat I was doing. I was actually aiming for a 3-stop, but midway through my second stint, I actually realized through my engineers that the 2-stop was actually gonna be better for that case. So I just slowed down a little bit to, cool the tires down and make them do a little, like, 2 or 3 laps more than they should. But I mean, that all came undone when, for some reason, I just disconnected, because in that moment I was still like talking to my engineers, to my teammates, like it was all normal. I don't know why that happened. I did have some issues this morning, but it's just so weird. I have no idea what happened, but we'll come back stronger for Suzuka, surely. It's one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah, it certainly is. Obviously, huge disappointment. I know it's another tough situation that you had to deal with. But what could you do? Did you decide to stay and help Sergio with any information? Because obviously, knowing that you could do the 2-stop, did that change what Sergio ended up doing, or was it Sergio that was giving you the information in the first place in the other car?
I mean, Sergio was on a completely different strategy because of his back of the grid penalty. So
Of course,
I did stay in call with him to give him eventual call outs about people spinning or about eventual strategy calls about other ones. But I mean, yeah, so he was doing pretty well on his own anyways. So it's a pretty nice recovery actually from last place to 12th. It's pretty impressive, if I have to say my opinion. And I'm sure that for Suzuka is going to be even stronger. Hope maybe even stronger than me. Who knows?
Well, we'll have to see, I guess. But ideally, you want 2 strong valets, don't you? Not just one. But I know, obviously, incredibly unlucky today, Alessandro. But the good result, I'm sure it's closer than we think. So I'm sure if valet just keep pushing, then you're going to get that car to the end, and it's not going to be outside the points. It's going to be well inside them when it does. So best of luck for that. We know Suzuka is going to be a lot of fun no matter what happens. I hope it goes better than last year because I think you crashed out last year, didn't you? But
Yep. Thanks for
Okay.
reminding me of that.
okay, but the last time you were there, you won, which was FSL
Yeah.
Pro. But I did and I was commentating on that. I wasn't commentating on Super League at Japan last year. So yeah.
Yeah. I
So
guess
who
you're right.
knows?
Good luck, Tom.
Well, I'm supportive. I openly admitted to being an Alessandro Maggio fan because Caitlin was like, "Oh, it's a shame Maggio's doing a different strategy because it makes it so hard to follow." And I was like, "I want it to be hard to follow. I want an interesting race that's unpredictable." So yeah, and then as we're having that argument, I think you got disconnected. But so yeah, I guess Caitlin won then in the end. Well, Internet Gremlins won. I don't think anybody won out of that one. But anyway, thank you for talking to us, Alessandro. Obviously, I wish to hope to speak to you in better circumstances, but it's not win by control. I wasn't the good luck charm today, but I hope Suzuka we see a different story. But things can always turn around, and all it takes is one good race, doesn't it? So I'm sure we're going to be talking again, and there'll be more to talk about.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, so he's like Alessandro Maggio, leave the commentary box. Let's talk to the other Alex Laho.
Was it actually a fit?
Oh, sorry, Alex. I didn't give you a lot of warning, did I? Welcome to the commentary box.
Hello.
Another short race, wasn't it, Alex? Unfortunately, in terms of it started off pretty well. Near the front of the grid with Thomas, your teammate. Thomas gains a place at the start. You were sort of tucked right in there. And then you got sort of undercut, I think, at the first set of pit stops. And then there was the collision with... was there a collision, or did you just spin out on your own? No, there was a collision because you tried to do a triple move.
Assassinated Lalu.
And that was it. Yukapeka got a... I think the phrase I used in commentary was that your eye... there's a phrase in English called when your eyes are bigger than your stomach, where you sort of see a lot of food, you want to eat all of it, and then you realize that you can't fit it in your stomach, so you got too greedy. And I said that your eyes were bigger than your brake pedal. So I don't know if that was an unfair characterization, but it looked like the rears just locked up and you got a little overexcited trying to do a double. I think it was single in the stacks that you were both trying to overtake at the same time because he'd stayed out and you'd both pitted. Do you regret going for that move, or?
Well, I mean, I was trying to go through with Lalu at the same time, but I just broke too late, I guess. I'm gonna put the blame on the brake pedal since it's not a load cell pedal, you know.
Well, I mean, it's nowhere near as big as your eyes, apparently. So.
Yeah, that's why I got glasses.
I'm surprised you hit it. It's such a tiny brake pedal. But or either that, or you've got a serious eye inflation problem. But
Oh yeah, no, no.
But anyway,
yeah,
after that, you had
what's
another
the thing?
moment, didn't you, at turn 1 and 2, where I think you just got frustrated and spun out, and then I don't want to say rage quit, but certainly the race was not becoming productive at that point.
Yeah, I did the mistake of going too low on the front wing, so it was like understeer land, no pace land, just yeah. There's no point going on with this. I'm getting frustrated. I'm just annoying my teammate in the VC.
Yeah, Thomas will say you cost them a
just-
podium because they were all fighting like rats in a sack essentially with each other, and Thomas was catching them.
I saw the last lap fights with Loic and Matthew Simon as well. DC
So then-
committee is gonna have a look.
I know I said in the commentary it was sort of 0 to 0 for you today, but
Yeah, I heard.
only takes one
I
more
was
race to
looking.
become a hero.
Yeah, it's Suzuka next.
Japan is
Jeddah.
next up. Oh,
Yeah,
of course, the big,
Suzuka and Jeddah.
the big race for you. Is it like
He's win 1-2 in practice, quali, and race.
is
from
Jeddah like your
from-
Monaco? Is that your equivalent of it? Except that
That's the championship race, Jeddah. Yeah, I win the race, I win the championship, easy.
is there some Saudi crown prince that's wiring you a load of money, Alex? But
Well, I
It's like-
wish, I wish, so I can get that Simucube, but no, I'm stuck with this.
You want Rain Sport? That's the game you want. You don't want to vote differently for that. But
Oh,
anyway, anyway, this is
Might
getting
as well
too
do a swap.
Oh well, sorry. It looks like Rotor Formula need a new driver, ladies and gents. But anyway.
Oh yeah, it's over, man. Jack Mayer, please come back.
You take one podium, you have one bad race, and it's like, oh, well.
Gone.
Yeah. Win every race
Motivation
strategy
gone.
is failing. Yeah, okay. You become the new
Liam Deval.
Liam Deval. Yeah, I was gonna
Liam
say,
Deval.
yeah, Liam demotivated.
You have the motivated, yeah.
But anyway, I've not got too much else to say, Alex. So, final thoughts
Yeah,
on
same.
Suzuka then.
Yeah, it was a disaster anyway today. I felt something wrong anyway coming onto this race. I'm like, something's gonna happen. I just know. I'm slow in quali. The race pace is meh. Just average.
If that's slow, I'd hate to see you on a good day. Well, I'd love to see you on a good day, actually. But,
I wish, man. I wish.
anyway,
I wish, man.
but,
2 weeks time.
commiserations. Bad luck today, Alex. But next week, 2 weeks time, sorry, there'll be another race, and I'm sure you're going to be back to your brilliant best. So put
Oh, yeah.
today behind you, and I'm sure, like I just told the other Alex, there are brighter days ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna try. We're gonna try our best. Win by 25 seconds, I guarantee. If I can't get podium every race now, Caitlin.
Okay,
I-
just
it's unlucky.
do the win one and then take the other
Yeah.
off strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, the next step is the fastest lap and then the pole position. Boom,
I'm gonna have
it's
to let you
complete.
go, Alex, otherwise this conversation will just go on
Yeah.
forever. But thank you for
luck.
coming to talk to us, and
Good
best of
evening,
luck to
guys.
you and Rotor Formula for the rest of the season.
Thank you, boys. Have fun.
Let's talk to the man who's started at the very, very back of the grid, has waited a long time to talk to us. That is Mr. Sergio Fletcher. So Valley Esports' very own Sergio Fletcher joins us now. Sergio, welcome back. We missed you in Australia, but you had a lot of fun today. Some signature Sergio Fletcher overtakes from 30th on the grid all the way to 12th. We sort of cut back to your race in between a lot of other battles, so forgive me if I forget bits of it, but it felt like you were making moves left and right. You were on a slightly different strategy to the people around you, and that really worked in your favor in the end. In fact, you were even holding on to Tom Stevens for a while after Tom had a bit of a contretemps with Daniel Brewer.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite fun. First lap was madness. You guys probably saw the crash in turn 8. It was right ahead of me, 3 cars spinning. I don't even know how I made it. And yeah, I was trying to follow Robin's strategy. I was on par with him. I destroyed my tires on the 2 last stints. Otherwise, I could have finished right with Robin or ahead of him. But yeah, it was quite a fun race. I don't know if you guys saw the bastard on the last lap.
I think we saw a little bit of it. Yeah, Jeffrey Fournier got picked off by you and Dylan Fisher, I think. I was watching on the timing screens because at the same time there was Lalo and Stevens fighting over ninth, and most importantly, Moynier passing Williams for second. So all 3 of these things were happening at the same time. So I forgive you. You'll forgive me if they didn't quite. It's important. It's for points, but it didn't. We had to sort of prioritize what was happening slightly further ahead. I'm
Don't worry,
afraid.
we were all on the same call and there was things happening all the time. So I understand, don't worry.
Yeah, not to mention the rain, of course. Yeah. Were you ever tempted to pit for the inters, or did everybody know on the forecast it was going to be just 2 showers or so?
The rain caught me at the worst time because my hearts were dead. And I had to pit for mediums. And I was asking Robin, is this rain going to stay like this? He was like, yes. I was like, okay. Screw it. Just put mediums and go with it. If it rains, I've got the newest tires. If it stays dry, I've just pitted for new tires. So there was, risk.
So, Sergio, it's good to see you again, by the way, of course, because obviously you couldn't get the start, quite the start, you'd like Loic, but for slightly different reasons. You couldn't get the start of the season that you wanted. But now, points on the board. Alessandro is saying he hopes that you were with him or doing better than him in Suzuka, of course, which would certainly be great news for Valle, given Alessandro's pace as of late. Of course, it was an unlucky day for him today. Are you looking forward to going back to Suzuka?
Well, of course. I was so gutted I had to miss Australia because Australia was one of my favorite tracks. And we have to optimize the points. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Japan and happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for talking to us, Sergio. I'm sure this is only the start of the season for you, and we're going to see you much more regularly in the points than we did in 2024. So thanks for coming to talk to us, and all points for Valet, I guess.
Thank you. Pleasure to speak to you guys.
Right, one person left who wants to speak to us, and that is Green Stripes' very own Pavel Andrzejewski. So we are now joined by Pavel Andrzejewski, subbing in at relatively short notice for Green Stripes. So Pavel, I don't get to talk to you much because I don't commentate on FS1 anymore about your brilliant start to the season. So well done on your performances and victories for Multiforce. Today was a slightly different kettle of fish. The first I saw you today was you arriving backwards into turn 3. And somehow you still managed to beat your experienced teammate Vopke Hoekstra and take 19th position. So considering that you weren't meant to drive today, and you had Stein Handgraf cheering you on in the chat, by the way, you got to say, not a bad job today. You obviously had to pit at the end for some soft tires, but you had some decent pace. What's the fastest lap race? 125.2? That wasn't too bad, considering where you were in qualifying as well. That's pretty similar to qualifying pace. So how do you feel today went?
Yeah, hello everyone. Pretty long question, Edward. And you see,
I had to remember what happened. There's like 30 drivers in this race.
You left FS1, so I have to join the Super League as a stand-in to talk with you this time. You see what you've done, and yeah, but this race is like a bucket of cold water, actually, because
quite literally at the end.
Yeah, it's coming from the top of FS1 to just the very bottom of Super League. Is a very frustrating moment, but to be honest, with given time and with how the preparations went, and etc., how much this car is faster actually compared to FS1, I think this is quite good experience. Finally, I finished the race in the Super League because I tried twice last year and I didn't get lucky enough to finish this race. Now finally I'm at the finish line. Unfortunately without the points, but taking 19th place out of this race with this spin that you have told me that on lap, I don't know, 9 or somewhere like around that. I've lost plenty of time on that, and this could have gone a little bit better for me, but to be honest, it was quite good. I
stayed on the lead lap as well.
Yeah, this is actually my biggest goal and my biggest strongest point today. That I didn't get overtaken by Jan twice in this race. So yeah, I'm happy to finish this race. I'm happy that I'm back in FS1. Maybe I won't lose my pace in this car now. So I'm looking forward what will this year bring forever.
But if you green stripes on that Multiforce as well, just for good luck, I guess. Just remember the times, right?
The colors has changed quite a bit, but yeah, if the green stripes racing was called red stripes racing, maybe I would be winning this race. But unfortunately, the Volpino is out, Malta is in FS1, and the green stripes racing is not working with my style of driving. That's why I finished P19.
Ah, well. But like you say, your first finish, and I'm sure this isn't the last time we're going to see you in Super League. So, Pavel, thanks for talking to us. Best of luck with the rest of your FS1 campaign, to you and Mateus, by the way, Multiforce, because it's going well so far. And yeah, certainly if there's any more substitute drives in Super League, we look forward to seeing what you can do. And certainly being your teammate, staying on the lead lap, and only a couple of places off the points, there's big potential in your future, I'm sure. And I know how frustrated you were at the end of last season as well. To finally, it seems you're in a much better place this season, in a much more secure drive in FS1, which is, I'm sure, exactly what you're aiming for. So wish you all the best, and thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Long storytelling is very good, and yeah, it's all building.
I'm a commentator. It's what I do.
It's all building up. I mean, my history of FS1 in previous year, for example, and compared to this one. So that's what I was referring to. That it's long storytelling. That's yeah. It finally happened this year.
It's a long journey, but the journey is bearing fruit and rewards. So congratulations, Pavel, and have a good night.
Yeah. So do you. Good night.
So then, as Pavel Andrzejewski exits the commentary box, we can welcome back in Caitlin Penny to finish the broadcast. So 2 from 2 for Jan Grankvist, but a first ever podium for Loic Mounier, and he was very emotional there, dedicating it to his father, of course, who he said got him into this sim racing business in the first place. And then a slightly annoyed, but I think in some ways relieved Matthew Williams, despite losing second on the final lap to Loic, still comes home in third, and as you say, gets his third career podium. So yeah, all of our top three putting in very, very strong performances, but some heartbreak stories out there as well, especially Maggio being disconnected midway through the race, when he even interestingly said that he was thinking of switching to the two-stop.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ed. I think Loic Mounier's interview stands out to me the most there. Great that he has someone like that to support him in all that he does, and I would say that Loic is my driver of the day. But anyway, thank you very much for that. Thank you to everyone who we interviewed. Thank you to all of you for watching along at home. I know it's been a long one, but obviously GPWC is always exciting and always worth watching. If you do want some more GPWC action, and of course you do, next week on Tuesday we have Formula Sprint 2, and on Thursday we have Formula Sprint 1. And then the week after that, of course, we have Academy on Monday, we have Super Lights Tuesday, and then of course we have the Super League. It will be the Japanese Grand Prix on the Thursday, so 2 weeks from now, starting at the same time, 7:30 UK time. And I definitely wouldn't miss that one, because Suzuka, we've seen some very exciting races there in the past, including one of my very favourite GPWC Super League races of all time in 2023. And who's to say we won't get another race just as exciting as that but yes, thank you of course to Ed Hunter for joining me in the commentary box today. Thank you to Remco de Zeeuw for broadcasting, bringing you all of the sights and sounds and thing along those lines. And yes, we will see you all in 2 weeks time. Take care.